I think by now we're ready to get rid of the fake government that runs the reality TV show called the United States, because we're all sick and tired of it. Think about it for a minute. What does this so-called government of yours actually do these days? They stage mass shootings with cross-dressing men. That's not the sort of thing the government should be doing. The other thing they're trying very hard right now is to yet again start World War III. They're trying everything in their power to start war with Iran. And I have a message for the U.S. military. Anybody in the military who attacks Iran on behalf of Israel will be guilty of treason and will face the death penalty. For treason, if you try to start a war with Iran on behalf of a country that is run by, and this is not going to be allowed to continue. And let's take a pause and listen to Trump talk about how he is just an actor. Watch this clip about him just repeating about central casting. Talking about the fake news who will be coming along with him to his trip on his trip to China, supposedly for April.
To top it, we're going to have a lot of the people, most of the fake news back there is going to be going. So we have, Steve has done a great job.
So who are these people who are running this reality show pretending to be a government? Well, I went to Italy. I met some of them, people who hide in the shadows, like Leo Zagami, who told me that they ran, Obama, and they. Then you have people like Jared Kushner, who are now running a obviously fake and evil Trump, the real one, who worked with the U.S. Patriots and the U.S. Space Force, has not been seen, but the U.S. Space Force is on the case, and right now the Anglo-Saxon people are getting ready to remove these Satan-worshipping criminals from the top of their power structure. I'm sure you saw the news that Prince Andrew was arrested. This is the first time a British royal has been arrested in 400 years. The last one was beheaded. But this is serious. This means that they are actually cleaning out these criminals from the government. Something similar is happening in Canada. And we also noticed that the controllers of the fake U.S. show were trying to bypass the United Nations with this so-called Board of Peace for Gaza. They managed to get representatives of less than 10% of the world's population to participate in this facade, of this farce. And you can be sure the participants are both bribed and blackmailed. And this means that for example, President Erdogan of Turkey is attending. He's definitely compromised. If you're a Turkish patriot, you need to remove him because he's a Mossad asset. I'm afraid the same has to be said for Viktor Orban of Hungary. He should not be there. The Habsburgs need to remove him and find someone who's not compromised to lead the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which is now resurgent, by the way, and is fighting to reassert its control over Central Europe and liberate itself from the satanic EU. So that's happening. And again, you'll see that the so-called American government is very isolated now. Germany, France, the UK, Canada, they're not participating in this facade. The UK is not letting the Americans, or should I say the Israelis and their few remaining American slaves use any British air bases, and that includes Diego Garcia, for some attempt to start war with Iran. This is not how we want to decide our future. And the economy in the United States continues to implode. The so-called tariffs have resulted in a drop in U.S. exports, an increase in imports, and it's just been a tax on the American people. Your economy is being destroyed by these criminals. All they're trying to do right now is spend all your future investment money to build an AI control grid so that you don't get liberated from these controllers. And that is going to be taken away from them. The process of deciding what we as a species do in the future must not be in the hands of hidden Satan-worshipping reality TV show scriptwriters. That's not what we were supposed to have as government. We were supposed to have elected representatives of the people doing what the people asked for. And they did not ask for a war with Iran. They did not ask for fake trans shooting events. And they did not ask for all the money to be pumped through the stock market and billionaire insiders instead of handed to the people So this is not going to be allowed to continue. We still expect this thing to continue imploding, but there's no way they're going to put the lid on this. I noticed that the local police have been starting to examine the Zorro Ranch, the Epstein Ranch in New Mexico, or is it Arizona? I forget. Anyway, this is important because the local police have the jurisdiction, and there's no way the FBI, which is clearly an agency working for Satanists to cover up for the leadership of these blackmailed pedophiles, is not going to be able to stop it. And there are other investigations. Like I say, the fall of Prince Andrew is just the first, but many more will follow. And people like Anderson Cooper Vanderbilt resigning from TV is not going to cut it. If you see the comments everywhere, we're going to remove these people, and if they don't remove themselves, they will end up being facing court-martials and military tribunals. This is now inevitable. And I also want to point out that any mainstream news, this includes a Russian official news agency that's not reporting on this, is compromised. This group of people, this is the Chabad cult that believes people who are not members of their cult, and that includes Jews and other peoples, must be executed or enslaved, and they are the ones we have to remove. We have to systematically remove all Chabad members from their synagogues of Satan, and take them in for questioning, and we need to purge the system once and for all. This cannot be allowed to continue. But like I say, we don't expect more action until March. In the meantime, this whole thing is going to implode more and more. But the sheer anger of the population is not going to be swept under the rug. Even though they're trying to distract us with hearings and shows and more revelations, I'm not even... There we have the police acting and actually arresting him. So ask yourself, why hasn't Barack Obama been arrested? It's already, though, it's happening to the extent that they cannot go outside of the United States and Israel. The Bill Gates, or the actor representing the financial interests of the Microsoft empire, declined to go to India because I guess he'd know he'd be... they're not going to be allowed to get away with this, and it's coming down for sure. And then, and only then, can we start building a future planning agency, which is run by the people, for the people, to create the future we want, not the future they're trying to herd us into. So this dystopian nightmare has to end, and I personally will keep fighting to the very bitter end to make sure it happens. And we've got a critical mass now. It's good to see that the Canadians and the British are on the case, along with the U.S. Space Force, and hopefully the white hats will be able to clean up the United States before it's all too late. There's other things happening in East Asia. South Korea just sentenced their president to life in jail for trying to overthrow the government on behalf of his, Khazarian mafia handlers. I'm not going to say more about Japan, but something will happen here too. And once the Chinese New Year celebration's over, I expect very, very big things to happen. But the most important is we need to replace the satanic state of Israel with Judea. which would be a multi-ethnic, multi-religious state, and it will happen. And that means they will have nowhere else to hide except maybe Argentina. And again, we'll send troops down to Argentina to round them up. We cannot let them escape anywhere. This time, once and forever. So it will happen. Just wait and see. But everybody must take any action they personally can. If you see one of these people in public, and the list has been published, if you see them, you're entitled to make a citizen's arrest. And you're legally allowed to use necessary force if they try to resist arrest. If you're one of their bodyguards, you either arrest them yourself or you will end up in jail too. This is not going to end well for you if you keep protecting these people. And they're about to lose their magic money machine. When that happens, all the hired goons and whores will be gone, and they will be all alone, which is how they're supposed to be. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now, I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. Can you give us any information as to this massive buildup of U.S. military in the Middle East preparing to launch an attack on Iran? I know you said last week it's a lot of chest beating and intimidation, but even the Iranian government are now warning of an imminent attack. What are your thoughts on this?
It's very clear that the Israelis know that their blackmail network is imploding, and they know they're going to face justice. So they're going for one last big Hail Mary attempt to start World War III. But even if some U.S. compromised military try to attack Iran, it'll be a very, very catastrophic defeat because, 3 U.S. aircraft carriers have already been destroyed, and, they've disappeared from the news. Harry S. Truman, the Nimitz, there's one more. Anyway, they're all gone, and 2 more will sink if they try this. The fact is that the Chinese have a very advanced ship there that will destroy any assets that try to attack Iran. The Iranians, by the way, have plenty of gold which they're willing to offer to the American people and to the U.S. military as soon as they shake off this satanic control and end the rule of this Canaanite death cult. But yeah, they're going to try to start a war, and as I said at the beginning, any military who participate on this on behalf of Israel will face the death penalty for treason, unless they're an Israeli citizen, in which case they'll face war crimes trials after Israel falls, and if they're innocent, they won't go to jail. But if they are, they face the legal penalties. Next question.
Hi, Ben. China is a white hat ally, but that does not mean China will not be brutally competitive with other countries, included the United States. Given that, why should China go along with the plan to help overthrow the Khazarians and sanction a Jubilee? If they simply let us continue down the path we're on, the West will cease to be significant, turning China back into the world's superpower. So why would they help us if it doesn't seem to be in their best interest?
Well, first of all, the Chinese are aware that it was largely through Western help that China was able to modernize. And the other thing is that the Chinese like win-win solutions. It's actually better for them to have a prosperous West because it'll mean more markets and more places to sell their wares. And also, they're willing to build mega factories in the United States and Europe because it's in their interest. And even if China doesn't help, the West will still have to bite the bullet, live within its means, and, fix its economic system so that it can once again compete China. Look, China would have never surpassed us if we hadn't become infected with this satanic parasitical cult. There's no way. We would have left in the dust long ago. We would have already been out in the stars if these people hadn't taken over our system. And once we get rid of them, the West will be strong again, with or without Chinese help. But I understand the Chinese are willing to help because it is in their interest. Next question.
Hi, Ben. I just learned today that as of last week, the Federal Reserve no longer technically exists. It has been backed into the U.S. Treasury, and the Rothschilds' financial control of the people of this world has seemingly ended. If this is true, we have much to celebrate. Have you heard about this, and is there any truth to it?
I have seen announcements that show that the Federal Reserve Board has been put inside the U.S. Treasury, but you know, the U.S. Treasury is being run by Rothschild servants, so it's not over yet. We need to make sure that the entire Rothschild clan is rounded up and removed from control of finances. So, yeah, the so-called Federal Reserve Board is part of the Treasury, but look who's running the Treasury. So it's not over yet, and it won't until the U.S. corporation is bankrupted and the United States Republic is restored, with the help of England and Canada and Mexico, who are all standing by to help our American friends get rid of these criminals who took over their system. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Getting back to the 40,000 American troops that are being deployed across the Middle East in preparation for a potential war with Iran, do you expect that the United States will actually go through with this?
I think that they're smart enough to realize that any real attack would be a disaster. And, you know, good military minds understand that you don't pick a fight you're going to lose. And they would lose this big time. So I don't think it'll happen. There may be some limited air attacks by compromised assets, but they're not stupid and they're not suicidal. So I don't think it'll happen. But if it does, like I say, it'll be the end of the U.S. military power in the Middle East, and it'll be the end of Israel. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. It says, for months into years, you've been reporting that you have been in talks with these Asian royals who had offered to give $100 trillion to wipe all the debts and essentially have a jubilee, in essence, to wipe the slate clean for everyone, no strings attached. Now today, as in last week, after all your hard work, you have turned down their offer, stating who are they to do this? Well, why now? And who were you when you initially started these conversations? I had thought you were a person of influence whom these people respect and trust. So now what is the master plan, or is there not one?
Well, the reason why we turned down this offer is because it's still magic money created out of nowhere by hidden people. And so the plan now is to have a Bretton Woods type conference. So we replace the government of Keir Starmer, who is a blackmailed pedophile, with a genuinely representative government in the UK, and then we call for an international conference to discuss in public, in front of everybody, with participation of everybody who's interested, and how to fix the financial system so that it reflects the needs of this planet. Already 150 countries have been working on such a process, and this will continue. But like I say, we decided that what we need is not some secret people making magic money out of nothing. We need to have an open international conference to redesign the financial system so that it actually fits the needs of life on this earth. So that's why, like I say, putting numbers in a computer and saying this is it, we control everything, it's just replacing one secret group with another. We want this to be a public good run by the public and for the public, using the smartest people on earth to help manage it. And so that requires an international public conference. That's what we're calling for now. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself.
Restored Republic via GCR updated. Judy note, the gold is in Fort Knox. 147.3 million ounces. But the audit team that entered March 14 under Executive Order 14,271 found more. Gold repatriated from the Vatican Bank. From the Bank of England. From Basel. Nowhere on any public ledger. Ref, Knox Audit 2026-0314 Sigma total value, not $692 billion. $43 trillion. That is the gold that backs your new currency. Trump said I want to see the gold because he wants you to ask why. The answer: the gold is there, and $43 trillion more, and it is yours. Tier 4B notifications started 96 hours ago. That goes back to Thursday, August 20, 2026, when trial redemptions began. Redemption centers were established in 800 locations. Waiting for one sign: Trump walking into Fort Knox on camera and opening the 20-ton door. When he opens it, the EBS fires. The EBS fires, locking the QFS. When the QFS locks your debt disappears. When your debt is gone, you are liberated. They kept you a slave for 53 years. Every dollar you owed was a lie. Every interest payment was theft. The guy who said they steal a lot is about to prove it live on television. The door opens once. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. On Wednesday, 26th of August, 2026, Crystal Chamber space program technology integrates fully into public medbed systems. Humanity awakens into zero disease era as Cabal's suppression of extraterrestrial frequency healing collapses forever under Trump's command and White Hat forces seal final strongholds. Global currency reset. The most explosive week in financial history is upon us. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. Currently, there is no public access to QFS accounts. Any individual or platform claiming they can help you redirect your funds into a QFS account today is engaging in a scam. There have been reports of individuals losing tens of thousands of dollars to these predatory schemes. The transition to the new financial system is a military-grade operation. When it is ready for public integration, it will not come through unsolicited internet offers. American Media Group, Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. Tier 4B currency exchanges were being reported across the U.S. These were test exchanges done by private appointment. Signed NDAs. Terminals flashing revalued rates for seconds before vanishing. Bankers speak in code. Security teams double their shifts. Redemption centers stand by in silence. Something is moving, quietly, powerfully and irreversibly. Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. Mastering QFS, fund transfers, account setup, RV and redemption funds. Monday, August 24, 2026, QFS News. As discussion surrounding the quantum financial system, QFS, grows, this guide covers the central ideas behind QFS accounts, fund transfers, the global currency reset, RV and redemption funds, and the proposed transition toward a gold-backed financial system. Understanding the quantum financial system. The QFS is described as a next-generation digital financial system designed to eventually replace traditional banking infrastructure. Its proponents claim it offers greater security, transparency, near-instant transactions and protection against fraud, while reducing banking fees and eliminating traditional intermediaries. Transferring funds and opening a QFS account. Under the proposed model, users would establish and verify a QFS account, connect their existing bank funds and transfer eligible money into the new system. The process is described as account creation, identity verification, fund transfer verification, QFS activation. Funds entering the QFS would first pass through verification at exchange before receiving a digital gold certificate, connecting the currency to its underlying gold backing. The transition to a gold-backed system. According to the QFS narrative, full activation is tied to the global currency reset, GCR. Existing currencies would be reset under a new asset-backed framework before entering the QFS. Fiat money would not automatically become QFS currency. It would need to be verified, exchanged and assigned a digital gold certificate. Traditional debt-based banking would then gradually give way to direct account-to-account transfers, eliminating many fees, delays and third-party systems such as SWIFT. RV and redemption funds. The original material claims that RV and redemption funds, including ZIM and revalued currencies, would enter QFS accounts as gold-backed funds during redemption or exchange. The proposed sequence is GCR currency revaluation, redemption/exchange, gold certificate, QFS activation. The transition is expected to happen without a major public announcement, with traditional banks gradually adapting and potentially evolving into financial service centers. Gold at the center. Physical gold is presented as the foundation of the entire system. The theory claims that large gold reserves would back currencies worldwide, with individual reserves identified and connected to digital gold certificates. Instead of physically moving gold, the QFS would transfer these certificates, Physical Gold Digital Certificate QFS Transaction. The goal is a financial system where money is connected to tangible assets rather than unlimited fiat creation. The bigger QFS vision, the broader narrative, connects QFS with quantum computing, the quantum voting system, Jazara, the alliance, and a completely redesigned global financial structure. These remain claims rather than publicly verified elements of the existing financial system. But the central QFS vision is clear: replace debt-based banking with a secure, transparent, gold-backed system where individuals directly control their money and transactions occur rapidly without traditional intermediaries. Bank of America settles with Jeffrey Epstein victims for $72.5 million after a federal judge granted preliminary approval. Bank of America still denies any wrongdoing but will move toward closure. A final hearing is scheduled for August. What we think we know as of Tuesday, August 25, 2026. FBI agents arrested 4 members of the Turtle Island Liberation Front on December 12. The group has been described as far-left, pro-Palestine, anti-government, and anti-capitalist. They were accused of planning a New Year's Eve bombing targeting multiple businesses in Southern California in the name of Palestinians, or Rashida Tlaib. An individual was arrested on December 21 in Pennsylvania after researching ISIS propaganda to use in an explosives attack campaign. On December 29, an ISIS sympathizer was arrested in Texas for attempting to provide bomb-making materials to a foreign terrorist organization. On August 22, 2026, 4 a.m. EST, Executive Order 2026-1947 was signed without a word. There was no press conference. No cameras. No press briefing. Executive Order 2026-1947, Declassification and Deployment of Electromagnetic Regeneration Technology for Civilian Use. This is no rumor. There is no speculation here. This is a signed document from the federal government. Despite backlash, Sinclair stood firm. He described 1999 encounters in which a contact arranged an introduction with then Illinois State Senator Obama. Obama allegedly bought cocaine, smoked crack from a pipe in a limousine, and returned the next day to Sinclair's hotel room unannounced for more of the same. Was Sinclair a whistleblower exposing truth or a peddler of slander? Was the 2025 hit and run a random accident or something more calculated? Where there is smoke, many see fire. Sinclair was not alone. Mia Marie Pope claimed Obama obtained cocaine through encounters with older white men in Hawaii. Donald Young of Obama's church was murdered under circumstances some believe were meant to ensure silence. Joan Rivers stated Barack was gay and Michelle transgender shortly before dying under conditions some call suspicious medical malpractice. The legend of Bathhouse Berry persists among those who reject the official narrative. Sinclair's story remains a reminder of how power protects its own and buries inconvenient truths. For those watching elite cover-ups and deep state influence, this tale continues to demand that hard questions be asked. In the corridors of power, truth is often darker than the polished version sold to the public. Oh, historic bombshell! Bill Gates and his 23-year-old daughter have been caught running a secret university program to establish one world rule and global domination. Gitmo TV. Death cult exposed. Bill Gates has been caught red-handed running a shadow government system through top Western universities whose goal is the establishment of a totalitarian world government that controls the minds of the people, where members are taught how to criminally manipulate government, bureaucracies, and the media. Members of the secret Stanford University branch were so appalled by the literal supervillain nature of the organization, they have now blown the whistle on Gates and his daughter, who is an alumni. The course is officially named So You Think You Can Rule the World, but members simply call it Rule. The Roman Empire never ended. According to the late William Cooper, the Vatican priesthood traced back to the astrological mystery school religions of ancient Babylonia and Egypt. The Roman Empire morphed into the Vatican in 325 AD, during the First Council of Nicaea, to remain in power. Since that time, the Vatican has continued to maintain their power, via religious persecution, blackmail, pedophilia, and the assassination of political leaders, dignitaries, and anyone else they deem a threat. All roads lead back to the Vatican and black nobility. The 17th letter on Telegram, Monday, August 24, 2026. Inside the emergency broadcast system, the blackout protocol, Nizar and Jazara connected on Telegram, Sunday, 23 August, 2026. For decades, you were told that the EBS was just a test. A simple tool for earthquakes, hurricanes, or weather alerts. That was the cover story. The truth. It's a global override mechanism, a silent chain of command that stands above presidents, parliaments, and corporate giants. When IT activates, every civilian communication system goes dark. Screens turn black. Signals vanish. Social media freezes. The world goes silent, until one voice speaks. The familiar line "this is only a test" was a coded drill, a rehearsal for the real transmission that will signal the fall of the cabal. You were told it was a national system. Wrong. It's planetary. Above you, a network of military satellites, the Sky Shield grid, orbits in silence, waiting for one final command. The keys rest in the Pentagon, NORAD, and covert NATO command nodes buried in Belgium, Germany, and Greenland. These are controlled by the White Hats, generals. WHO swore an oath to the people, not to politicians nor bankers. Why now? Because the stage is set. The banks are collapsing. The media is disintegrating. The puppet masters have no more strings to pull. The world is a breath away from reset. When the EBS engages, the veil will rip. Confessions. Arrest videos. Classified files. Truth will pour through every device simultaneously. Nobody escapes the broadcast. First, there will be silence. Hours of digital nothingness. No phones. No internet. Only static and the hum of frequencies shifting. Then, a flash. Your screen goes white. The seal of the Republic appears, not CNN, not BBC, not Fox. A voice breaks through, "My fellow Americans. The storm is here." What follows is the flood. Readings of unsealed indictments. Names. Crimes. Evidence. Tribunal footage. Every lie that built the old world will be shattered in front of your eyes. They tested IT for years. The 2018 Hawaii missile alert, a live simulation. The London and New York cellular blackouts. The nationwide emergency tests that buzzed your phone at random hours, all calibrations for the main event. Because when the real one comes, IT won't be local. IT will be global. Who will fall? Media tycoons. WHO fed you lies. Bankers. WHO enslaved nations through debt. Politicians. WHO sold their people for power. Celebrities. WHO traded fame for dark contracts. Their masks will be ripped off. Their faces shown. Their names spoken. What comes next is the storm of truth. Markets will crash. People will scream. Streets will fill with confusion and revelation as humanity awakens from the program. Then, the rebirth. From the ashes of chaos, the quantum financial system will rise. Gold-backed. Decentralized. Unhackable. Sovereignty restored. Slavery erased. The return of law under God, not law under commerce. When the blackout protocol initiates, do not fear the silence. It is the sound of the old world dying. It is the breath before freedom. The EBS is not a threat. It is the voice of liberation. The hammer that shatters illusion. The trumpet that announces the new era of light. When the screens go dark, remember, the darkness does not mean the end. IT means the light is ready to speak. On Wednesday, 12th of August, 2026, President Trump gave the green light to activate the Worldwide Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, and ordered the Global Military Alliance to take over the mainstream fake news media to make mass arrests of treasonous global elites. Be prepared for worldwide emergency alerts, blackouts and 10 days of communication darkness. Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. Be ready when worldwide EBS alerts announce the global currency reset. It will be a moment when every major communication device around the globe, cell phones, TVs, radios, internet, will sound the same message. All of them, at the same time, introduced by the sounds of 7 trumpets. For 72 hours the world will be fed a steady stream of truthful declassified information, real history over the last 100 years. The crimes against humanity of those who said they were protecting it. The technology they stole from you. The economic system that made you a slave to debt. Military sources have revealed that on Monday, August 24, 2026, the new gold/asset-backed global quantum financial system, QFS, will be alive, while the privately owned by Illuminati deep state cabal foreign bankers Federal Reserve, IRS and U.S. incorporated dollar would be officially dead. With the QFS live the new rates of the gold/asset-backed U.S. note and other currencies of the 209 BRICS nations will be active and tradable. They've repriced the gold behind 209 nations' currencies for the new system to $4,384, the last dollar price that gold will ever have. As the QFS goes live, Gold would no longer trade in dollars, but in quantum verified weight. Tier 4B, US, the internet group who held foreign currencies and ZIM bonds, notification was already queued. The 800 numbers have been tested. The redemption centers were staffed. A. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. The world's leading bioweapons specialist Professor Francis Boyle, who wrote the U.S. Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act, is dead just days after signing a Dutch court affidavit. His testimony for the court said that, but Frankenshots, synthetic biological weapons with illegal gain-of-function spike proteins and Pentagon/DARPA nanotechnology delivery systems designed to kill and maim en masse. Boyle was scheduled to testify in a Dutch court against Gates, Borrell and the rest of the architects of the Great Reset. President Trump has shared a map depicting the Strait of Hormuz as a new U.S. territory, Sunday 23 August, 2026. GTMO, 2+ million indictments worldwide. All will be revealed by EBS. That is the cover story of the movie If They Died in Public. If they confessed and shared secrets, they were given a choice in how their death was announced to the public. It was part of their deal to have a role in the movie. They were tried by tribunals when they had completed their function. If they did not confess and did not share secrets and did not choose to participate in the movie with the role, they were executed for their crimes against humanity. To be rich and famous means they have sold their soul to the devil. A Trump investigation recently uncovered $8.3 billion in fraudulent research grants to universities. These universities were conducting illegal bioweapon research in partnership with foreign governments. There were 15 university presidents, 47 federal contractors, 3 members of Congress and 8 judges involved. They were all coordinating with foreign operatives to develop biological weapons on American soil. Sunday 23 August, 2026. Possible timing, B. That's all that's left. August 24th. The date they don't want you to circle, JFK. Sunday 23 August, 2026. Trump didn't extend the Iran deadline because he's negotiating. He extended it because the system isn't ready yet. Let me explain what's actually happening, and why you need to screenshot this message. Right now, at this very moment, 3 things are being moved simultaneously. Gold. Central banks bought more gold in the last 90 days than in any quarter since 1967. Not investment banks. Central banks. The ones who write the rules. They're not buying gold because they're scared. They're buying it because they know what's replacing the dollar. Quantum nodes. The QFS backbone went from 12 active nodes in January to 67 active nodes as of last Friday. Each node processes 1.4 million transactions per second. You don't build that kind of infrastructure for a system you're not about to turn on. Swift access keys. Ripple's partner Thunes quietly announced stablecoin payouts to 11,500 banks through Swift. They called it a smart superhighway. That's not a partnership. That's a replacement wearing a disguise. 3 moves. 1 deadline. August 24th. Now here's the part they'll never say on television: the Iran war isn't about Iran. It never was. Every bomb that falls on Tehran is a distraction from what's happening in the server rooms underneath the Federal Reserve buildings in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. They're migrating the ledger. $23 trillion in U.S. debt. $8 trillion in offshore accounts. Every transaction, every loan, every dark money transfer since 1971, all of it is being moved from the old system to the new one. And when the migration is complete, the old system gets unplugged. That's what August 24th is. Not a deadline for Iran. A deadline for the Federal Reserve. Why do you think gold dropped from $5,595 to $4,384 in 8 weeks? That's not a crash. That's a controlled descent. They're repricing gold for the new system. When QFS goes live, gold doesn't trade in dollars anymore. It trades in quantum verified weight. The price you see today is the last dollar price gold will ever have. Tier 4B notifications are already queued. The 800 numbers have been tested. The redemption centers are staffed. I told you last week, the deals are signed. The gold has moved. The war is the cover. 48 hours. When the clock hits 0, the dollar doesn't crash. It simply stops existing. Set your alarm for August 24th. Forward this to everyone you trust. See Global Currency Reset. Currently, there is no public access to QFS accounts. Any individual or platform claiming they can help you redirect your funds into a QFS account today is engaging in a scam. There have been reports of individuals losing tens of thousands of dollars to these predatory schemes. The transition to the new financial system is a military-grade operation. When it is ready for public integration, it will not come through unsolicited internet offers. American Media Group, Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. Thai 4B currency exchanges were being reported across the U.S. These were test exchanges done by private appointment. Signed NDAs. Terminals flashing revalued rates for seconds before vanishing. Bankers speak in code. Security teams double their shifts. Redemption centers stand by in silence. Something is moving, quietly, powerfully and irreversibly. Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026, special alert, the structural reset has begun. Monday, August 10, 2026. Tony call on bank exchanges. The banks are scared of us ordinary people who hold foreign currencies and have their own list of high-wealth clients who they have been inviting into exchange early. There is no way to get on that list, nor would you want to. You are already on it, or not. The bank appointments with their clients have each taken 3 to 4 hours, not the 40 or so min that we expect. Anyone who raises their voice at a bank exchange appointment can risk being blocked and not get access to their bank account. You can negotiate a rate with the bank, but do not get into an argument or they will block you. Tony has heard of people getting as high as $6 per dinar at their bank exchange. Judy note, exchange rates at redemption centers were expected to be much higher than at a bank, especially the contract rate on the dinar, which the banks can't offer. This video is reposted from the blog, urdailyblog.com. In the dark corners of the internet, the name Hillary Clinton surfaces again, this time at the core of one of the most terrifying scandals imaginable. For those brave enough to uncover the truth, Pizzagate has become a chilling symbol of a hidden network of elites who prey on children, operating from the shadows of DC's corridors of power. This is not just a conspiracy, it's a web of deception that reaches into the upper echelons of government, Hollywood, and beyond. Pizzagate, the word that launched 1,000 investigations, a portal into a sinister world of pedophilia, corruption, and satanic rituals. Clinton, they say, is not merely a bystander. She's the mastermind. The queen. The one pulling the strings behind closed doors, orchestrating atrocities too horrific to comprehend. The pieces of the puzzle are too clear to ignore, a connection between Pizzagate, Pito Wood, and the elites who think they're untouchable. Meanwhile, citizen journalists are doing the job mainstream reporters won't. They're connecting the dots. Gee, what we think we know. As of Monday, August 24, 2026, election fraud. Multiple affidavits expose thousands of military mail-in ballot batches being 80% to 90% all for Biden, with some even being 100% all for Biden in the GA 2020 election. One military batch showed 950 for Biden, and 0 for Trump, which is statistically impossible. Witnesses also testified that they all looked like Xeroxed copies, the paper looked and felt different, and the watermark did not match other authenticated ballots. Congressional hearing on 2020 election fraud. An American is so upset with the job market she's in tears. She's clearly been trying to get a job for a long time. She was offered a job and then the offer was rescinded. She has every right to be this upset. In the last 12 months, 70 to 80% of jobs went to foreign-born workers. Roughly 90% of all U.S. job gains went to foreign workers since 2020. This is real data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We are being replaced by foreigners. Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. Breaking special report: Wall Street and London so panic, but Scott Bessent's secret plan is crushing them. Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. The Hamiltonian Restoration. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent drops economic nuclear bomb on globalists. Dependency is slavery. Sunday, 23rd of August, 2026. Midterm mega bomb. Elon Musk deploys $100+ million war chest as Trump's MAGA machine gears up. The America First power play that could crush the midterms. The directive is 11 pages long. The first page contains a single instruction: effective immediately, all contracts for the procurement of pharmaceutical products with the following entities are suspended pending federal review. The list contains 31 companies. All the major pharmaceutical manufacturers on the planet. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, AstraZeneca, Novartis, Roche. All of them. Suspended. Not renegotiated. Not modified. Suspended. Page 2 introduces the replacement, a new federal medical supply chain operating under Military Logistics Command. One of the executives left his phone on the table when he went to the bathroom. A notification popped up. It was an encrypted message. The preview read, updated K-list attached. 2,847 names added this quarter. Confirm receipt. I didn't touch the phone. But I remembered the term. K-list. Wake up America. President Trump just made a move that absolutely terrified the deep state. On July 25, 2026, he put all federal diversity staff on paid leave, on Telegram Sunday 23 August. 2026, the media is calling it routine. They're lying. Here's what they don't want you to know. What were these diversity programs really doing? While America was sleeping, 312 federal employees were running a $47 million per year operation. Not for diversity training. For funding deep state black operations across multiple agencies. How did they hide IT? Every single federal agency had a chief diversity officer. Each one reported directly to a shadow network operating inside the Department of Justice. The money flowed through shell organizations, universities, and nonprofits. Nobody was watching. Nobody was asking questions. What did Trump's team discover? Trump's intelligence team discovered encrypted communications. They found SWIFT transfer records proving $8.3 billion in fraudulent research grants to universities. These universities were conducting illegal bioweapon research in partnership with foreign governments. Who is involved in this conspiracy? 15 university presidents. 47 federal contractors. 3 members of Congress. 8 judges. They were all coordinating with foreign operatives to develop biological weapons on American soil. The evidence is overwhelming. What happens now? The arrests have already started. FBI director confirmed involvement with deep state. The first wave arrested 312 federal employees. The second wave is targeting the university presidents and contractors. The third wave is coming for Congress and the judiciary. Why did Trump move so fast? Because the deep state was preparing to activate their final contingency plan. They were using these networks to coordinate a massive coup attempt. Trump's team intercepted their communications. He moved first and moved decisively. When will the public know the truth? Trump is preparing a 48-hour national address. When he speaks, the emergency broadcast system will activate nationwide. The military tribunals begin August 1st. The evidence will be declassified. The pattern is clear. They built a system to hide trillions of dollars. They used diversity as cover. They infiltrated every agency. They were preparing to take down the republic. But Trump saw it coming.
President Trump reminds me of a friend who has a sister who is a drug addict. And she borrowed money from all her relatives and friends and everybody until the well went dry, and they wouldn't lend her anymore. And now she says that she won the lottery, and she's going to pay back everyone with interest. The problem is, she didn't win the lottery. It's delusional. The same thing is happening with the fake President Trump. This has been going on for a while now. He says he's got $18 trillion in investment promises from around the world. This is not true. It's not happening. Nobody's investing anything. Then he says he's got $18 trillion in revenue from tariffs, when in fact his revenue is $238 billion, which is not even enough to cover a month's deficit, trade deficit, or budget deficit for that matter. And now we're seeing some similar delusional behavior as far as Greenland is concerned. He thinks that somehow by grabbing Greenland, which is part of a NATO allied state, that it's going to solve all his monetary problems because they've got all these rare earths. Again, the problem is, even if they do, it'll take 7 to 8 years to develop, and he's got bills coming due on January 31st, so it's not going to be on time. The same with Venezuela. He says, we got all this Venezuelan oil. Yeah, all right, they've been stealing oil tankers, but guess what? U.S. has also had oil tankers stolen from them in the Middle East, so that's not working. And the big attempt to grab Iran's the gold, has failed. Uh, the real reason for this failed color revolution in Iran was, as I wrote in my weekly report, to grab the Persian gold hoard, which is apparently huge. It's more than the official reserves of the entire world. And remember, the official reserves are only gold that was recognized by the Western financial system and has their stamp on it. It's not the real amount of gold in the world. In any case, the rest of the world is not accepting any more IOUs from the United States. They want payment in physical silver or physical gold, and the fact that they failed to grab the gold in Iran means they're desperate. I don't see any way out of it except one, which is to accept the Dragon family offer of $100 trillion. This would be used to finance the Jubilee, to cancel all debt, public and private, in the West, to finance a huge rebuild of U.S. infrastructure, for example, a high-speed train network connecting the whole country, all sorts of things. And also, we would promise that we would cancel all debt, public and private, and everybody would become the owner of their current residence. And landlords would be compensated with the equivalent in rent. And as you know, it's been pointed out, people who actually own their own houses and paid for them will be given an extra reward in the form of ownership of corporations that will be confiscated from the satanic oligarchs who stole it through central bank fraud. So all that is going to happen. But in the meantime, we still have this delusional megalomaniac who thinks he's Donald Trump. Uh, he's trying to invoke the Insurrection Act. And here you can watch the head of the Israeli Homeland Security. Remember, Homeland Security's headquarters is in Israel. And we have Christine Noem in this clip. You can watch her talk about the Insurrection Act.
Do you have any plans to pull out of Minnesota?
No plans to pull out of Minnesota.
How would you describe what you were seeing on the ground there? Would you describe it as an insurrection, and do you believe the president should invoke the Insurrection Act?
I describe it as violent and a violation of the law in many places. I discussed with the president this morning several things that we are dealing with under the department and different operations. We did discuss the Insurrection Act. He certainly has the constitutional authority to utilize that. My hope is that this leadership team in Minnesota will start to work with us to get criminals off the streets.
What this means is they want to use the military to shoot American civilians in order to impose a dictatorship ruled by their fake Trump. That's what it means. And unfortunately, there's people also working against legitimate law enforcement to try to create a crisis to justify this military takeover. I do believe we need a military takeover, but not one controlled by the satanic Zionists. And you can spot them because they're the ones who are covering up all the Jeffrey Epstein files because they're in them. So, anybody like Pam Bondi or anybody in the current regime that you're seeing on your screens does not belong in public office, okay? Now, another thing that's going on is just like when the Romanian regime fell with Ceausescu, he kept ramping up repression and ramping it up until him and his whole family ended in front of a firing squad. And we're seeing similar repression in the United States. And, for example, I'm pretty sure that the creator of Dilbert, Scott Adams, who just died, was killed with a cancer-causing poison. And we know that, Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the ADL, is going after people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. And as a result, I've been told that a death warrant has been placed on him because he is killing journalists and trying to suppress the truth. So another person who I've heard a death warrant has been put on is Lindsey Graham, because he's been calling for the assassination of Vladimir Putin, the sitting head of state. So this is not issued by us. This is issued by someone else. I'm not at liberty to discuss who they are, but they told me that such warrants had been issued. So, the battle is going on, but we are winning. And the control grid is failing. For example, we have the Iranian Foreign Ministry explaining to Fox News that the killing in Iran was carried out by Mossad. Please watch this clip. What's interesting is that it got through onto the U.S. screens, because this whole recipe for color revolution involves causing, first of all, economic turmoil so that people get unhappy. Then they pay protesters and target the anger towards the regime. And then they have people shooting both the police and the protesters to try to get them to fight each other. And they tried this, and instead, what happened was the Mossad snipers were taken out, and the Iranian armed forces were able to protect their country and their people. And of course, you won't see that on your Western screens, because unfortunately, these criminals still control the mega corporations, and that's what needs to be taken away from them. We need to remove their control of Google, Microsoft, all the big high-tech companies. They need to be removed from that control. And also, the United States military really, really does need to get back to the real world and live within its means, because right now it is a gigantic parasite. For example, take a look at this clip of a so-called rocket company that got $4 million from the U.S. military.
They're walking up to a place that's a TGV rocket company. So apparently these people build rockets. They've gone over $4 million from the government, and it's ran by a guy named Pat Bond. Now, this to me does not look like a rocket company. This apparently is a $4 million rocket company according to the DoD. Now, who approves this?
And we're in a Hub C zone. Fabian, what is a Hub C zone?
So a Hub C zone, according to the SBA, is a zone that's not really built up. That's more, as you can see, run down. So they give preferential treatment for grants to companies that are set up in these zones. So we don't even know if the guy even lives here, if he's renting it out to someone and he just owns the place. But technically it's a rocket company that's rented out to other tenants, which makes it even weirder if that's the case.
The thing that really pisses off a lot of people, obviously, is that places like this shouldn't be receiving $4 million of taxpayers' money to say that they create rockets in places like this. And we know for a fact that an individual receives one grant after another. This isn't a one-time grant. This is one grant after another phase one grants. And the goal of the phase one grants is they give you about 200,000 or so, is to get into phase two and to say that you've developed what you needed to in phase one so you can get the larger sum of money. So obviously that place is located right next to a 7-Eleven, and you know better than anybody, if they were actually manufacturing any types of rockets, it'd be such a massive safety hazard. Obviously this is blatant fraud.
Okay, that's the sort of thing that happens when you have a magic money machine, but ultimately it's parasitical. It sucks from the strength of the country you're supposed to be supporting, and that's no way to run a military. If the military was run by sane people, one of the first things they would do is get rid of all those aircraft carriers, because, as the Chinese have pointed out, the Russians can sink them all within half an hour if they want to. They've got the missiles to do that. So militarily, they're expensive white elephants, and they need to be removed, and the money saved should be put on, building hypersonic missiles. This is the sort of thing that needs to be done as soon as we get sane leadership. And again, the last time we offered this $100 trillion from the Dragon family, the forensic trail led to Barack Hussein, Thunder of Satan Obama, who blocked this money from being used to help rebuild America. And this time, the money is being blocked by the Rothschild family, who are using the fake Trump who's been around since June of last year. And That's that's what's blocking it now. So we have Jean-Michel de Rothschild posing as Brigitte Macron. We have Nathaniel Rothschild. We have the Edmund de Rothschild Bank. We have Barclays Bank, and we have the Vatican Bank. These are the people who are preventing the rebuilding of the West and refusing the generous offer from the Dragon family to help rebuild Western industry and rebuild Western civilization. But it will happen anyway. We're going to have to let things collapse a bit more. It looks like Israel is being abandoned. Ehud Barak has been spotted fleeing the country. Benjamin Netanyahu has left. And I was told by the Iranians that the satanic, racist state of Israel is going to be replaced by the nation state of Judea, which will be a multi-ethnic, multi-religious state, and that the temple will be rebuilt once Judea is established, and the Jewish people will be freed from thousands of years of satanic slavery. This is, to the U.S. military and to the law enforcement agencies. Take a look at this clip about baby formula from Florida. So, 16 out of 24 samples contained toxic substances. The same is true of 90% of the cheese. Okay, we have these Satanists who control the fake Trump are literally trying to poison you and your family. Okay, we need to take action. This is legitimate self-defense. They've been caught poisoning us, and this is not something that you could just idly stand by and let happen. Please remove these people. We're all waiting for you to get off your butts and do it. I'm personally doing everything I can. I want everyone else listening here to do the same. We've got to end this. The nightmare has to end, and humanity has to be liberated from this satanic nightmare. Okay, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. Are you saying the ICE agent who shot the woman in Minneapolis is a Israeli Defense Force officer? Your quote from last week, "We have foreign troops killing American citizens," is that what you meant?
Well, I've been provided with evidence that a lot of the ICE agents are actually Israeli Defense Force soldiers, and that most of them have been trained by the Israelis. The same people who are killing people in Gaza. But as far as that particular agent is concerned, I have no idea. He may well be an American citizen, but he's been filmed murdering someone in cold blood illegally, and he should be in jail. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We'd like to get your thoughts on the current mayor of Minnesota.
You know what? I'm going to skip on that one because I don't have enough knowledge to give you an informed comment. But I will try to do some research on that and talk about it in my next weekly report. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Weekly, you tell that the Chabad death cult is going to be removed, but could you list the names of the individuals running this cult and where their operations are conducted from, if you are aware?
I believe that you could actually look it up online. They're openly listed, and the names are available. But what you have to understand is that Chabad are the army, the brain control army, but the real leadership is the Octagon Group, the Rothschild family, the people at who control the World Economic Forum. But Chabad centers, they for years they say, "Oh, we're just a harmless Jewish group. We mean good," but the reality, as can be seen in their own writings, is that they are been working to kill 90% of humanity. But again, it's all public information. Just look up Chabad, and you'll find a list of all their locations. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Apparently, there's a video by Stuart Lowe being interviewed by Nino Rodriguez. States they are wishing to make 3 superstates, Russia, China, and the U.S. They are very much pushing the synagogue of Satan to be in charge, as they speak about some sort of dome. I have zero desire to be ruled by no-hide laws up here in Canada. What are your thoughts about this?
That's not going to work. This plan will fail. We are definitely headed for a multipolar world. So it'll be like any village where we have certain rules. You don't go into your neighbor's house and steal and rape, and we all get together to deal with things that we share in common. But it's not going to be some kind of centralized dictatorship like these people are planning. That three group idea is not going to work. And personally, since you're in Canada, I'm pushing for Canada to liberate the United States and restore democracy there and good government. I want Canada to take over the United States. Next question.
Evan, we have our last question for today. Since famous entertainers are usually compromised with unpleasant circumstances to make them servile, is it possible actor Timothy Busfield acted against his handlers and is being exposed as punishment? Any evidence that he may be helping the White Hats?
You have to judge from what he's saying. If he's been talking about pedophiles and stuff, then yeah, he's been targeted. But I don't know the details in this case either. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself.
Gold, physical gold and silver. This is a sign that the Western-led financial system is collapsing.
Now they are blocking the exits into gold and silver, aka capital controls, or banking restrictions on how you can spend your money. Let me explain. I work for a full-service gold and silver, physical gold and silver dealer. And today we had multiple clients who are trying to wire us funds to purchase gold and silver to escape the failing fiat system. And guess the banks are no longer allowing the wires to go through, not just to us, but to any precious metals company.
The majority of us are aware that the current United States government is dysfunctional and criminal. The United States set up the international architecture that existed since World War II. And when they set it up, they were a good country. They were in favor of democracy, human rights, free trade, and all sorts of nice things. And they were helping other countries. Now, however, it is obvious to everybody that the country has been taken over by a group of very, very sociopathic, Satan-worshipping criminals. And the Chinese and the Europeans and the Canadians and the rest of the world are joining hands to overthrow the Donald Trump criminal regime and the Khazarian mafia who are behind them. This is going to happen. It will happen. It is happening. Here, listen to a Chinese expert describe the situation.
It is the United States which has kept talking about the value-based or the rule-based international order. Where are the rules, first of all? Then they also talked about the values, as if their values are superior to other countries' values. Where are their values? Are their values just a plunge from the top of the mountain into the abyss of the rule of the jungle, for example, to plunder other countries' assets, to disregard other countries' sovereignty and territorial integrity, or to come up with any justification they can think about to seize Greenland from the people in Greenland, as well as from the sovereign country that is Denmark. So don't be fooled by such falsifications and pretenses, for example. They don't even care about international law. They only care about what they believe should serve their own selfish interests. This is probably the darkest moment in the U.S. history. I've called that the history will look back upon this period of time as the beginning of the end of Pax Americana. We are truly living in epoch-making period of time, and whatever you say, whatever you do, will make the world better or worse, depending on what you are doing. And I don't think Mr. Ludwig's remarks in Davos will make America great again. It will reveal the true color of the United States in front of the whole world.
He is right. This is the worst crisis in the history of the United States. We have an openly criminal government that's carrying out theft and killing people without any excuse other than that it wants to take money and oil. And this cannot be allowed to continue, and it will not be allowed to continue. And it's not going to be militarily that difficult to deal with these people. Listen to Professor Jeffrey Sachs for a minute to talk about who we're dealing with. Basically, it's about 10 individuals who have to be arrested in order to shift the balance. And I would add Jared Kushner and Benjamin Netanyahu to this list of people who need to be removed. But by now, the evidence is overwhelming. The governments of the West, especially now the United States and Israel, were seized by members of the Chabad Lubavitch cult who, in their own writings, make it very clear they want to kill 90% of humanity and enslave the rest. And they've actually tried to kill us with vaccines, putting poisons in our foodstuffs, and various other things. And they've also been trying very hard to start World War III. And they're going to keep trying to start World War III because they don't want to be arrested for the mass murder and torture of children, which is why they have ignored the law and refused to release the Epstein files. As far as I can tell, they are now in exile in Switzerland. I don't know if the fake Trump will be allowed to return to the United States or not. I sure hope not. But there's a lot I cannot talk about, but I can tell you there's been some very high-level coordination between very powerful forces, including the Europeans and, well, basically everywhere in the world except for Israel and the United States and a few of their slave states, maybe 10 countries in all. But overall, it's going to end. And what's going to happen is the system of Babylonian debt slavery will be ended. The control of the financial system will be once again connected to the real world and to real people. And it will be working for the people. And there's going to be a jubilee. All the debt's going to be written off, and all the money that was stolen through central bank fraud will be returned. This is going to happen. It is happening. We're doing it. And it's not just going to be words on a screen. It'll be action. So the thing to watch out for is how much longer this obviously mentally unstable fake Trump is going to be allowed to bloviate before he is arrested. That's what we need to watch. He may try to flee, but I don't think there's anywhere on this planet he'll be safe anymore. Because, as I've mentioned before, this is a fraud who replaced the real Donald Trump after June of 2025, and he has to be removed. And if you're in Joint Chiefs of Staff in the U.S. military, you have a duty to remove the person who is impersonating your commander-in-chief. And we'd also like to point out that if you don't start working with white hats after January 31st, you're not going to get your paychecks. We've got to end this. Enough is enough. All right, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Evan, we have our first question for today. It says, when I was reading your report on Tuesday morning, as usual, the 10-year JGB market started to crash. As you wrote in the report, the Taikachi Moonies scandal is the reason for the election and the Japanese economy to crash just before the election due to the scandal and market crash. Is Japan going to be the first domino to fall?
There's a good chance of that. The Asian secret societies are saying that this is the end of the Takechi government. And remember, she works for Asotaro, and Asotaro's daughter is married to a Rothschild. And so she's a slave of a slave. She's not the prime minister of Japan. What I think what we're seeing in Japan is some rats bailing the ship, leaving the ship, selling their assets, trying to get out while they can. And that's probably going to continue. I'll be meeting with the head of the Three-Legged Crow Secret Japanese Society soon, and I'll have a lot more to report about it after that. But I believe that Japan is going to become an independent country for the first time since the 1860s. So it'll be very different, but good and friendly. Next question.
Hi, Ben. I have to take issue with this continuous white dragon offer of $100 trillion to save the world. Where is this money? Who earned it? And how did it stay hidden? If this money is in China presently in the form that it is in? Why do you think China will agree to let it go? Then again, why should we need this debt when a ledger note that needs nothing more than a delete button is what the debt really is? So in essence, the WDs are trying to pull a fast one, saying they will eliminate all debt when a delete button can do that in a microsecond. They're basically trying to take control through fear and confusion and chaos, just like any other enemy would do. And why are you so adamant to push this?
Okay, first of all, it's not going to be debt. Okay, you're not going to have to pay it back. This will be given to you, and that's it. There's no debt. It's not debt slavery. It's a grant. Second of all, what you need to understand about the world's gold is that most of the world's gold is now in Asia. And what happened was this gold was blacklisted by the Khazarian mafia controllers of the Western financial system because if they could recognize that gold as money, then all power would have gone to the Asians. So most of the gold that they have is blacklisted. It doesn't have the right stamps on it. But now the West has run out of their gold. They don't have any more. And the Asians have offered to write off all your debt. And the thing you need to understand about the debt to Asia is that it wasn't like the Federal Reserve Board where they just create money out of nothing and then put you in debt for nothing. This is money that was owed for things like cars, computers, oil, real things, okay? And if you suddenly say that's it, no more debt, then you will stop being able to buy stuff from the rest of the world. So it's not like the fake money created out of nothing. This is actually based on real commercial transactions. But like I say, the Asians are trying to help the American people get rid of their satanic government, and then but they're not going to try to rule the United States or the West. They simply want to remove the infection that has taken place, and it'll be the West who decides our own economic future, not the Asians. But again, I repeat, this money is not debt; it's a grant. You don't have to pay it back, and it is backed by gold. Next question.
Hi, Ben. In previous reports, you have stated that the U.S. military won't act on behalf of fake Trump. So how was he able to send in special forces to remove Maduro? And now he is mobilizing aircraft carriers to the Middle East for a possible strike on Iran. Has the situation changed where the U.S. military is now taking orders from the fake Trump? And if so, why?
The U.S. military is very scared. You know, if they disobey, they get killed and stuff. But what's happened is in the case of Venezuela, when they were ordered to attack, the military explained that we can't attack. We don't have the resources. So they came up with a scheme instead to kidnap the president, who was, you know, he's Jewish and actually was in on the whole thing, we now know. But that's all they could do. They couldn't actually go and seize the Venezuelan oil fields. So now they're just pretending they seized them, but they didn't actually get control. And in the case of Greenland, the same thing. Trump ordered a military attack on Greenland, and the military said, what are we going to attack? There's no target. We already have a military base there. This is nonsense. It doesn't make sense. What are we supposed to attack? And so they didn't. And in the case of Iran, Iran has let the West know through Switzerland that they have nuclear weapons. And again, they don't mind, you know, sending their aircraft carrier nearby and chest thumping as a negotiating tactic. But they know very well that any further attempt to attack Iran will lead to the end of Israel. And I believe the end of Israel is coming, but no Jewish people are going to be hurt. No one is going to be killed. It's just going to, what's going to be happening is a crime syndicate that took over that country is going to be removed as a part of a police action. But the people of Israel will be liberated, not, prosecuted. But just watch and see. The military is not going to start World War III for a bunch of Satan worshiping gangsters. It's not going to happen. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Why would they want to kill Scott Adams? He admitted he took the vaccine and had terrible regrets after learning of its dangers. He, like many other, may have just developed a turbo cancer from it. Please enlighten us to what information you have that he may have been murdered.
Well, first of all, my colleague Christopher Story was hit by a similar
poison and died. I was also hit by this cancer-causing poison, but his colleagues called me right after I got stabbed and told me that if I took 5,000 international units of vitamin D every day and a gram of vitamin C every hour, early on, I could stop it, and that's what I did. But what I know about the vaccine is that only about 5% of them were toxic. But what they did is they made up a list of people they wanted to get rid of, and they made sure they were on the list for the toxic version. And I guess Scott Adams had started breaking their rules, and so he was put on that list. But I guarantee you that was not a natural cancer. I hope they give him a good autopsy so we can prove this.
Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. Would you please check in with your sources and find out what has happened with the real President Donald J. Trump, if you are not currently aware, and if there's any way he may be able to return publicly soon?
My main sources for the real Donald Trump were U.S. military intelligence and then a senior member of the U.S. Space Force. And they used to tell me that when things got rough, the real Trump hung out in Cheyenne Mountain Base in Colorado or else in the Pacific Air Base in Greenland. But he has not been seen by these people since June of last year. He's missing. We don't know what happened to him. But I think at this point, we're going to have to not wait for him and take action ourselves. And as you know, Prime Minister Mark Carney has made it clear the Canadian Army is ready to fight to help the American people. Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota has activated the National Guard to protect the people of Minnesota from these Israeli mercenaries pretending to be ICE agents. And again, for various reasons, we don't want the enemy to know what we're doing. I can't say many things, but I guarantee you that there's some very serious military action being planned to finally end this nightmare. And I think that's why they're all hiding in Switzerland right now. But this cannot be allowed to continue. And this week, the report is not going to be a very long one because we need action, not words. And I behind the scenes, there's been very serious contacts made with very powerful players. This is the real deal, folks, and you're going to see it to believe it. Don't believe it till you see it, but something fundamental is going to be changing. And the sooner we make it happen, the better, because by this point, a critical mass knows that the current U.S. administration is dysfunctional, it's criminal. They're stealing oil from other countries' tankers and then putting it in their own personal accounts. They're killing people. They're trying to, invade countries and steal their property. It's a criminal gang, and it's now openly so. And plus, they're trying to cover up the fact that they've been murdering millions of children every year to extract adrenochrome. This is all factual, and it's going to come out, and we're going to make sure these people never, ever get in power again. Enough is enough. All right, well, that's what I have to say for myself this week, and I hope to see you again next week, where I'll try to offer a more detailed summary of what's happening in the world. But right now, everything's in flux, and it's all going to change very quickly, very soon. But it'll be for the good. I guarantee you the White Hats are going to win this one, but everybody must do what they personally can to make it happen. So let's do it. Let's end this. All right, thanks, and hope to see you next week.
Hello, Patriots. I'm at Restored Republic via a GCR update compiled by Judy Byington. By 10 a.m. on 9/11, the world was in smoke. Announcement silenced, gold and silver inside Building 7 vanished, and truth buried beneath rubble, and stole trillions to protect a system of slavery. But Nasara did not die. The Chief Justices placed guardians to monitor. The ink on Clinton's signature was valid. The law stood, just not announced. Watch the water. The next target of the cabal's World Economic Forum, your tap water. From the World Economic Forum, agenda collaborator, Mariana Mazzucato. Climate change is too abstract for people to understand, but the next water crisis is something everyone will rally around. Translation: the water from your tap no longer belongs to you. It belongs to global bureaucrats and WEF cronies like Bill Gates, who will manage it for the planet. For 2 decades, the deep state played out wars in the Middle East, manufactured recessions, financial crashes, built silently, and continuity of government was activated. Starlink satellites aligned. The quantum financial system was constructed, a living network immune to corruption, tied not to fiat but to transparency and truth. The emergency broadcast system awaits, armed ready to override every screen on Earth. The QFS hums beneath the surface, prepared to dissolve debt, erase slavery, money, and install a new golden architecture. The plan was precise. When the switch was thrown, 2 streams collided. First, the EBS, unmasking crimes, broadcasting tribunals, forcing the world to face the scale of deception. Then the QFS, resetting the global economy, ending the Federal Reserve, releasing humanity from a century of theft. They will call it the Great Silence. 10 days where the internet goes dark, banks shutter, ATMs fail, and every channel becomes disclosure. When the signal breaks, the world you knew will collapse in hours, and the world they hid will rise in light. Nasara and Jasara, the gold asset-backed quantum financial system of 209 countries and the worldwide emergency broadcast system will soon converge. When that moment comes, nothing will ever be the same again. No official time frame has been given for when the emergency broadcast system will trigger a 3-day event, followed by 10 days of communication darkness. Perhaps 3 to 6 weeks where all across the world will be isolated at home or a place of their choice. The Global Military Alliance will suspend the media, internet, phones, TV and radio, and play 8-hour documentaries 24/7 about what is going on. During that time, the Global Military Alliance will take down what was left of the Illuminati deep state cabal. Their governments make mass arrests of corrupt global elites, hold military tribunals, and carry out sentences on Satan worshiper pedophiles who have committed treason, child sacrifices, and crimes against humanity. What we thought we knew but didn't really know, now we're supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style, and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. USAID administrator at Senate hearing. USAID funded bioweapons programs using tax dollars, which meant that taxpayers were funding their own deaths. Saturday, August 22nd, Hurricane Lala aftermath on Hawaii Island, South Point. There's a link on Facebook. And I'm sorry, I've never heard of hurricanes hitting Hawaii. I guess they do, but that's a first for me. So I'm thinking deep state. I know that they're still in control of the weather and earthquakes and stuff. I don't know how they're doing it, but obviously they are. Remember when the Democrats hired 87,000 a-holes to go after the American taxpayer? Yes. They weaponize everything. Here is one of them, Alex Mina, who works in the IRS Criminal Investigations Division, caught on hidden camera. The Internal Revenue Service has no problem going after the small people, shooting people, putting people in prison, and destroying people's lives. The IRS is unconstitutionally using AI to access everyone's bank accounts nationwide. Like in 6 months, AI, were able to capture $500 million. When I went to the criminal investigation unit, the guy said, "The first person you shoot, you're going to remember. But after that, you're going to shoot like 100 people. You're not going to remember any of them." IRS agents are evil a-holes. They are the definition of an a-hole, all of them. End quote.
C. Prepare yourself. The storm will break with QFS. Tier 4B 22 AUG 2026 from Sun. 23 AUG 2026. The QFS is no longer a test. It's the dawn of transparency, accountability, and freedom from cabal control. The countdown has begun, and there's nowhere left for the elites to hide. The quantum financial system is here to end every lie and deception ever used against us. Mon. 10 AUG 2026 breaking. The 4 portals of the quantum financial system, QFS, USA, European, UK, Netherlands, and Asia-Africa-Australia portals are set to connect and transform the world. Discover how these portals will bring transparency, asset-backed currencies, and global financial freedom, ending deep state-controlled quantum financial system in the quantum financial system, QFS, is here, set to forever change how the world handles money. The era of corrupt financial practices, hidden transactions, and deep state manipulation is coming to an end. The QFS promises transparency, security, and direct control over personal finances. The system operates through its 4 portals, gateways connecting the world's financial networks. This isn't just another financial overhaul, it's a transformation of the global economy. The 4 portals of the QFS connect continents and bring financial autonomy to millions. 1. USA Portal, the lifeblood of the Americas. Covering North, Central, and South America, the USA Portal ensures connection to the QFS across the Western Hemisphere. The introduction of the U.S. note, USN, an asset-backed currency tied to gold and silver, replaces the corrupt system centered around the U.S. dollar. With this shift, the Federal Reserve's control over the American economy ends, marking the collapse of the fiat system. Impact on everyday people. The USA Portal will empower citizens from Canada to Chile with direct access to their wealth, free from bank manipulation. This portal brings unprecedented stability through the USN, an asset-backed currency providing financial sovereignty across the continent. 2. European Portal, reclaiming financial sovereignty. Breaking free from the euro, the European Portal allows countries like Netherlands, Spain, Italy, France, and Germany to reclaim financial independence. Each nation will issue its own QFS-linked currency backed by assets, ensuring the end of financial manipulation. A united, yet independent Europe. Under the QFS, each country will manage its economy independently while retaining transparency and security. This shift means financial freedom for individuals and national autonomy, signaling the end of the deep state's control over Europe's financial systems. 3. UK Portal, a return to sterling strength. The UK Portal introduces the sterling token, an asset-backed currency restoring financial independence to England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. This new currency, supported by the QFS, ends Britain's reliance on the euro and deep state influence, with each transaction secure and traceable. 4. Asia-Africa-Australia Portal, a continental shift in power covering a vast area including India, South Africa, Australia, and all of Asia. This portal represents a seismic shift in global financial power. The QFS will support these nations with asset-backed currencies, promoting economic prosperity from their own resources rather than exploitation by external forces. Unleashing a new wave of prosperity, Asia, Africa, Netherlands, and Australia, once battlegrounds for financial manipulation, will experience newfound prosperity. This portal promises a future where wealth benefits the people and economies of these regions, free from external interference. The grip of the deep state is loosening. Possible timing. D here is what the legacy banking cartel is desperately trying to censor before you wake up tomorrow morning. 22 Aug. 2026, the Tier 4B activation. The secure satellite uplink to the non-custodial Tier 4B validation terminals has transitioned from testing to live. The asset-backed sovereign funds, backed by the physical gold re-anchored to the U.S. Treasury, are now officially mapped to the local routing networks. The quantum handshake. Over 12,000 regional and local credit unions have successfully integrated the ISO 20022 protocol over the last 4 hours. The corrupt Tier 1 megabanks that refuse to comply with the asset-backed standards have had their settlement privileges permanently revoked by the military alliance. The NESARA liquidations, the hidden offshore pools used by the globalist corporations to short the markets and suppress humanity, have been completely drained. Those funds have been legally redirected into the primary redemption accounts. The distribution protocols are locked. They told you the old system was too big to fail. They wanted you to believe you were trapped in their endless debt loop forever. Look at the sudden, forced updates on your personal banking apps tonight. Look at the emergency internal memos leaked from the administrative floors of Wall Street. The old world didn't just crash. The keys to the entire global wealth ledger were handed back to the people. The ghost currency is evaporating. The real asset-backed era is officially online. You held the line through the darkest hours of the deception. Now, watch the monitors as the old machine loses its power forever. QFS Integration Live ISO 20022 Sovereignty to Reconciliation BGNS, the countdown has hit 0. F. Global Currency Reset on Thursday. 20 Aug. 2026 at exactly 8:14 p.m. Eastern, the old SWIFT Central Clearinghouse experienced a permanent database decoupling. The secondary handshake between the central banks of the G7 nations officially returned a terminal failure message. Thursday. 20 Aug. 2026 Bruce, the Big Call Universe, IBIS. Com, 667-770-1866. A higher-up said they were handling bonds in Miami, Geneva, and Reno. A military intel person said that as of 6 p.m. EST on Wed 19, 2026, there was a 5-day window where Tier 4B redemption appointments and be able to start appointments. That would take it to Moan. 24 Aug. 2026. On Thursday, 20 Aug. Redemption Center leaders received saying that they should go into work on Fry. 21 Aug. 2026 Paymasters report full release. Direct confirmations have been sent to private transaction platforms in Reno and Zurich, confirming that Tier 1 and Tier 2 payouts had been finalized. Tier 3 and Tier 4 are be next. If you're in the private groups, get ready now. Military movements confirmed to secure transition. Sources in Intel report increased security around major financial centers. Private security details have been deployed to Reno, Zurich, and Dubai. Special ops teams were making sure no foreign interference upsets this historic shift in global power. Aug. 2026 on Moan. 24 Aug. 2026, the ISO 20022 messaging that defines how banks transmit payment information completes its transition across all major banking rails. For the first time in history, SWIFT, Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of England, BRICS, IMF, and all high-value cross-border payment systems will speak the same transaction language. The first week in SEP 2026 redemption centers will start processing live appointments in accordance with full GESARA protocol. The schedule is already being filled with authorized Tier 4B participants, according to sources within 2 U.S. agencies. Judy, note, your exchange redemption appointment. As far as I know, which may be incorrect, anyone who has bought foreign currency and or ZIM bonds from a valid dealer, text or phone to obtain an 800 number and code used to set your exchange redemption appointment at a redemption center of your choice. Get your plans projects together and don't wait around for this to happen without being ready. No straight cash will be given. You are in charge of your funds and can place funds in different accounts. Advisors will be there to assist you with your funds and will help guide you in your projects or choosing one on the list. You can take to your appointment. Advisors' bank contacts, if you have already spoken to a specific person, /friend any person you want to assist you. ZIM cap information is changing daily, but as of now they are paying as follows. No projects equals 15 million. No matter amount you might hold with projects equals first 2 bond notes are 1-to-1 after this 25 million per 100 T, up to 30 bond notes. To negotiate further you will need to return. If you were a ZIM holder and in dire medical need, you might be able to set a med bed appointment at your redemption. This was because they are anxious to get the humanitarian programs going that were funded by your ZIM bond. Movements of Global Military Alliance as of 11 Aug. 2026, 22 Aug. 2026 Global Military Alliance secures mainframe access to central intelligence and deep state data servers, exposing direct funding trails to global manipulation campaigns. Emergency Special Operations teams confiscate multi-billion-dollar offshore gold reserves and digital asset vaults tied to compromised sovereign wealth funds. Mass detentions of senior international corporate directors and financial technocrats implicated in designing global supply chain bottlenecks and artificial scarcity networks. Space Force defense units neutralize foreign satellite infrastructure used by elite cabal networks for encrypted command and control operations. Over 100,000 military tribunal prosecutors and investigators deployed across secured jurisdictions to process millions of pages of recovered digital evidence and witness depositions.
Tuesday, August 11, 2026. Complete shutdown of compromised SWIFT financial messaging nodes and commercial banking verification gateways. Global command structures confirm that the transition to direct military oversight of critical infrastructure is 100% complete. The old power structure is unable to recover or communicate. All secure channels are on standby for the imminent broadcast of documentary archives and prosecution logs across all intercepted networks. The final systematic dismantling of the elite class is reaching its culmination. Maintain operational awareness and monitor verified disclosure feeds. The Reset. Breaking dossier. Jerome Powell is enemy number one of finance. Federal court moves to crush Federal Reserve, Tier 4B.
A federal court just dropped the hammer on Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, revealing a secret economic war on the American people. Powell, who has long been portrayed as an impartial economist, is now revealed as a globalist enforcer running a monetary dictatorship behind closed doors. His title is Fed Chair, but what is his job? The number one financial enemy. The Federal Reserve has been a shadow government for over a century, setting interest rates, printing debt-based currency, and engineering booms and busts while being above the law. But under Powell, it became something darker. The execution arm of the globalist Great Reset. It is not serving America. It serves Davos, and the numbers tell the story. Over $2 trillion in deficit spending, $1 trillion in interest payments. And mortgage rates so high that the American dream has collapsed. At the same time, Wall Street, BlackRock, and the WEF dine on the spoils. Trump was correct. The Fed doesn't work for the people. It serves a world syndicate. In a landmark decision, a judge ordered an emergency injunction stopping the secretive FOMC meetings of the Fed. The court has indicated that Powell's fortress of secrecy could be breached, revealing decades of backroom deals, rate manipulation, and financial sabotage. Trump's legal offensive is in full swing, demanding total transparency, criminal investigations, and the destruction of Powell's grip on the American economy. This is not policy debate, it's economic war. Powell's Fed has used rate hikes to crush families, block homeownership, and swell big bank profits. Gold has soared 28% this year, a global vote of no confidence in Mr. Powell's leadership. The dollar is in free fall. The pain is real and not accidentally. Behind Powell, a deeper alliance is emerging. BlackRock and Big Pharma are a triad of finance that is using the central bank system to take away Americans' wealth, ownership, and independence. Powell is the man on the gun. The money comes from the Fed. BlackRock purchases the assets. Pharma keeps you trapped on lifetime prescriptions, paid for by inflation printed by the Fed. That's coordinated control. Trump is the only world leader calling this out by name. While others bow down to Klaus Schwab and the tyranny of central banks, Trump is calling for a full audit of the Fed, criminal charges against Powell, and a complete separation from the globalist cartel. This is not about interest rates now, it's about national emancipation. America is writing its Declaration of Financial Independence now. No more unelected bankers running the economy. No more secret meetings deciding your future. No more debt slavery in the name of policy. End the Fed. Break up the cartel. Justice for the treasoners. Jerome Powell is not a public servant. He is the monetary arm of an occupying power, and his empire is coming apart at the seams.
The quiet reset is no longer quiet. 26. The public still believes they're living in the same world they woke up in yesterday. But the foundations of that world, the banking grid, the medical grid, the communication grid, even the military command structure have already shifted into a new architecture, and the transition happened without a single announcement. The first crack appeared on 11/11/2025 when a secure military code in Colorado Springs went dark for exactly 47 seconds. They called it a routine system refresh, but the internal logs proved otherwise. Those 47 seconds marked the first QFS mirror link activation, where the old ledger was shadow copied into the new quantum frame. Then came the second break, 12/7/2025. 3 federal clearing servers in Washington, D.C. went offline in a synchronized pattern that has only been documented twice in American history. The press didn't cover it, the banks pretend nothing happened. But insiders know that this was the moment the old financial lifelines were severed from the global routing network, and that was merely the prescript. On 12/10/2025, 3:14 UTC, the back end of the system registered the first Tier 4B authorization ping. The signal wasn't visible to the public. It was encoded, transmitted through quantum routers, and acknowledged by a classified military oversight node. Only 24 people in the country even saw it. But that was the moment the transition stopped being theoretical and became operational.
What we think we know as of Sun. 23 Aug. 2026. Insane. Investigative journalist reveals there is nothing stopping illegal aliens and Hamas terrorists from voting in Minnesota elections. Anthony Rubin of Muckraker. I went into a polling place dressed normally, and beside me were 2 individuals who are dressed as Muslims. I told the worker that they had just been flown in recently from the Gaza Strip, that they were members of Hamas, that I was unsure of their citizenship status. I said to them about 3 times, I was just so you're aware, they're members of Hamas. They just got here. They just kept telling me the same thing, which is, look, as long as you vouch for it, that's as far as our check goes. 22 Aug. 2026 Mike Lindell conducting largest election recount in U.S. history. A full-hand recount of the Minnesota governor's primary election will take place and will be privately funded by Mike Lindell, which will cover all ballots, counts, anomalies, and election night reporting. 22 Aug. 2026 Rep. Anna Paulina Luna says China is funding Democrat socialist candidates. DSA is absolutely funded and tied to the Communist Chinese Party. We know, for instance, in their mega donors like Neville Roy Singham, who are currently under investigation by the Department of Justice.
Saturday, August 22nd. This 1967 recording explains everything happening today. Saturday, August 22nd, 2026. Explosive report. 25,000 pages, one verdict. Guilty. Putin delivers 25,000-page mRNA dossier to Trump. Time to arrest Bill Gates for mRNA crimes. Video. Saturday, August 22nd. Bombshell announcement. Trump ends tax on Social Security. America's seniors finally keep what they earned. No tax on Social Security. Saturday, August 22nd. Breaking, Trump unloads on Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Thomas Massey. Calls them 3 losers in a scorching political takedown.
Deep within subterranean command nodes, military intelligence teams have successfully extracted the master cryptographic keys to global surveillance networks, permanently severing the communication lines of shadow. 22 Aug. 2026 simultaneous tactical incursions target deep underwater fiber optic repeaters and orbital relay stations, cutting off the clandestine data loops utilized by international syndicates for market manipulation and coordinate sharing. Forensic accounting units secure multi-trillion-dollar corporate ledgers hidden inside sovereign tax havens, mapping out the exact capital flows that funded decades of covert geopolitical engineering. Autonomous defense grids activate across major continental sectors to enforce absolute airspace sovereignty, grounding all unregistered corporate aircraft and intercepting maritime vessels attempting unauthorized transit.
The transition to distributed local governance and hard asset monetary settlement is now enforced by joint task forces, replacing centralized compliance monopolies. Evidence vaults containing classified medical patents, suppressed energy designs, and advanced propulsion schematics are preparing for public release via decentralized quantum nodes. The architecture of control has been permanently dismantled. Verify all intelligence through secure channels as the new infrastructure comes online.
The reset they tried to bury it under ashes, fire, and fear. They thought by collapsing the towers, by silencing judges, by erasing entire case files, they could keep the truth hidden forever. But history has a way of clawing back to the surface, and what was signed in secrecy, what was buried in blood, is about to ignite the world stage. In the year 2000, William Jefferson Clinton was forced at gunpoint to sign the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, NESARA. The signature was real, the law was sealed, and the date for its global reveal was set. September 11, 2001, 10:00 a.m., Alan Greenspan was scheduled to announce it publicly. But at 8:46 a.m., the first tower was hit. By 10:00 a.m., the world was in smoke, the announcement silenced, the gold and silver inside Building 7 vanished, and the truth was buried beneath rubble and propaganda. They murdered thousands to erase one law and stole trillions to protect a system of slavery. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of farmers against the banks. The evidence was clear: fraudulent foreclosures, illegal taxation, a government in collusion with the Federal Reserve. The 16th Amendment had never been ratified. It was a lie, a century-long deception. Justices knew reform was inevitable, and they placed guardians to monitor the process. That process was never stopped. It was only delayed. The ink on Clinton's signature remained valid. The law still breathes. For 2 decades, the deep state played its theater. Wars in the Middle East, manufactured recessions, financial crashes and bailouts. Presidents came and went, but behind the curtain, the same bloodlines pulled the strings. Yet during this darkness, another current was moving. The White Hat Alliance built silently. Continuity of government was activated. Starlink satellites aligned. The quantum financial system was constructed. A living network immune to corruption, tied not to fiat but to energy signatures, transparency, truth. Now in 2025, the fracture is visible. The old system bleeds. Currencies wobble, nations break from the petrodollar, and whispers of NESARA rise again. The emergency broadcast system waits armed, ready to override every screen on Earth. The QFS hums beneath the surface, prepared to dissolve debt, erase slavery money, and install a new golden architecture. The plan is precise. When the switch is thrown, 2 streams collide. First, the EBS, unmasking crimes, broadcasting tribunals, forcing the world to face the scale of deception. Then the QFS, resetting the global economy, ending the Federal Reserve, releasing humanity from a century of theft. They will call it the Great Silence, 10 days where the internet goes dark, banks shutter, ATMs fail, and every channel becomes disclosure. But when that silence ends, humanity will wake into a reality it was promised long ago. NESARA fulfilled, QFS operational, EBS completed. What they buried on 9/11 returns like a sword through the heart of the beast. This is not speculation. The law exists. The infrastructure exists. The guardians exist. The only unknown is the moment of ignition. So prepare your spirit, steady your mind, and hold your ground. Because when the signal breaks, the world you knew will collapse in hours, and the world they hid will rise in light. NESARA is not a dream. QFS is not theory. EBS is not a rumor. All 3 are real, and all 3 converge in our time. The question is not if. The question is when. And when that moment comes, nothing will ever be the same again.
$50-year petrodollar system begins to crack. New American economic system: 0% income tax, 0% property tax, 0% gains tax. President Trump doubles down on CBDC ban. I signed a historic executive order banning any attempt to create a central bank digital currency. Gates, Bezos, and Thiel exposed, funding the world's largest pedophile network, turning schools into grooming labs under a total media blackout. The digital surveillance machine is already here. They can control your device, your data, your life. And from Mark Twain, patriotism is supporting your country all the time, your government when it deserves it. Judy note: the House of Orsini claimed to trace themselves back to the Julio-Judean dynasty of the old Roman Empire. According to Julian Assange, they are the heads, the 13 Venetian black nobility bloodlines. They founded the Jesuit order and control the Vatican. They also control the Rothschild and Rockefeller families. Domenico Napoleon Orsini, nicknamed Pepe Orsini, is the most powerful man on earth. He is known as the Gray Pope. The Gray Pope controls the White Pope and Black Pope. Pepe Orsini wields unimaginable wealth and power, and he pulls the strings of presidents prime ministers, and organized crime syndicates around the world from behind closed doors. This is who Trump and his global military alliance were fighting. Pepe Orsini is head of the deep state Satan-worshipping Illuminati cabal foreign banker elites who rule the world. They overrule the health industry and control the world's financial system, the way they control the people, and you don't even know it. Since 1896, when Tesla discovered how the body could heal itself through frequencies, these most powerful technologies have been locked behind closed doors by this deep state cabal, kept in private clinics, used in exclusive recovery rooms by those who could afford to never be sick, while the world was given pills to manage symptoms, drugs known to break down the body's immune system. The Satan-worshipping Illuminati cabal foreign banker elites were regenerating at the cellular level.
U.S. Inc. owned the Federal Reserve, collected U.S. taxpayer monies through their own IRS, and then sent the monies to the privately owned UK Crown in London. The Crown used the monies as they wished, and then sent it on to the privately owned by Rothschild's Vatican Bank and to their central banks across the world. About a month later, the monies were returned to a Rothschild cabal-owned New York bank, which then lent the monies back, with interest, to the U.S. government to pay their federal employees. Congress has never approved a balanced budget, so the unregulated monies, along with owed interest, created the national debt. With the 1933 bankruptcy, the cabal needed to save their central banks across the world, so they pledged every American citizen as collateral to back U.S. debt. Gold was confiscated. Debt-based money was introduced. Your birth certificate was converted into a bond and sold to international investors. The system calculated your worth, traded it, and profited from you, without you ever seeing a cent. These elites don't see you as a free individual. They see you as an economic unit, TAXED, TRACKED, and controlled to keep the system alive. And they not only stole your taxpayer monies, but created a medical and pharmaceutical system where they stole your health as well. By 1954, the cabal had uncovered Nikola Tesla's discovery of what human frequency recovery through a med-bed treatment could do. That the body was an electromagnetic system, and when you restore the frequency, the body heals itself. 75 years later, in 2008, U.S. financial crisis was actually another bankruptcy of the independently owned by foreign bankers U.S. Inc. They had thrown away the gold standard in the Nixon era and functioned since on non-asset-backed printed fiat U.S. dollar. They couldn't even pay the interest owed to the Chinese elders on borrowed gold they used to begin the American economy back in 1913. The Chinese elders were a group of families who happened to be Chinese, but lived in the Philippines and owned 80% of the world's gold. They lent the gold out to countries to start their economies, as they had in 1913 with the cabal. Their contract with the cabal ran out in 2008, and when the cabal couldn't pay them the interest, let alone the principal, on the gold, the Chinese elders refused to renew the contract, thus creating the U.S. financial crisis, labeled the mortgage crisis. By 2011, when South Africa joined BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the organization had formed a plan to save the world economy by doing a global currency reset. South Africa was described as a gold mine surrounded in diamonds and could back such an endeavor through creating Zimbabwe bonds. That's where Trump and his global military alliance came in to clean up the whole mess. A white hat alliance of Pentagon generals had been formed way back after President Lincoln's assassination. Lincoln was trying to release the nation from the White Hats began forming a plan to release the world's economy from the Satan worshippers' grip. In 1963, when the cabal assassinated President John F. Kennedy, the White Hats went full throttle in the plan to save the world. By 2015, they had succeeded in overthrowing the fixed election enough to place Donald Trump at the helm of the American people. The day before, on Friday, 7 Aug. 2026, Trump signed Executive Order Operation Final Accounting, which authorized the military to arrest deep state architects who have been committing treason against the country, some for 70 years. The next day, on Sat. 8 Aug. 2026 at 14:40 47 ESD, and simultaneously at 47 federal facilities, the military arrested 847 deep state architects who had coordinated with 23 foreign intelligence agencies to sell American secrets. Also on SAT. 8 AUG. 2026, massive cyber offensives and data breaches neutralizing central banking and federal communications. Infrastructure. The military also seized classified documents, financial records, and communication logs that had been hidden for 70 years. They showed coordination between deep state operatives and the Chinese Communist Party and proved treason and financial crimes totaling $847 billion. The military has now seized that $847 billion in frozen assets from deep state operatives, offshore accounts, money laundering networks, and black budget slush funds. U.S. forces have mobilized military strikes against Mexico's cartel empire to hit cartel-run biolabs. This amendment was a strategic maneuver by deep state networks to prevent a populist president from holding power long enough to dismantle entrenched administrative structures. The strategic marker Trump 2028 serves as a signal for the final phase of legal reconstruction. By asserting that fraud vitiates every legal layer built upon it, the panel suggests that the original 1787 Constitution, which contained no term limits, is being restored as the primary law of the land. Under this framework, the upcoming years are viewed not as an extension of a civilian term, but as a transition back to a primal republic of Trump 2028 bombshell. The 22nd Amendment, the end of the two-party system, and the battle for a RESTORED American Republic video. B. Possible timing. President Trump has given the green light. He has activated the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, mobilized 300,000 troops, ordered the global military alliance to take over the mainstream fake news media and make mass arrests. 18 AUG. 2026, no official time frame has been given Trump's EBS activation, where we will isolate at home for 3-6 weeks, as global martial law suspended the media, internet, phones, and took over TV and radio to present 8-hour documentaries 24/7 about what was going on, while the military took down the Illuminati deep state cabal-controlled governments worldwide and made mass arrests of corrupt global. D. Global currency reset on Thursday. 20 AUG. 2026 at exactly 8:14 p.m. Eastern, the old SWIFT Central Clearinghouse experienced a permanent database decoupling. The secondary handshake between the central banks of the G7 nations officially returned a terminal failure message. Thursday. 20 AUG. 2026 Bruce, the Big Call Universe, IBIS. Com, 667-770-1866. A higher-up said they were handling bonds in Miami, Geneva, and Reno. A military intel person said that as of 6 p.m. EST on Wed 19, 2026, there was a 5-day window where Tier 4B would receive notification to set exchange redemption appointments and be able to start appointments. That would take it to Moan. 24 AUG. 2026. On Thursday, 20 AUG. Redemption Center leaders received saying that they should go into work on Fry. 21 AUG. 2026 at 8:45 a.m. Thursday. 20 AUG. 2026 Paymasters report full release. Direct confirmations have been sent to private transaction platforms in Reno and Zurich, confirming that Tier 1 and Tier 2 payouts had been finalized. Tier 3 and Tier 4 be next. If you're in the private groups, get ready now. Military movements confirmed to secure transition. Sources in Intel report increased security around major financial centers. Private security details have been deployed to Reno, Zurich, and Dubai. Special ops teams were making sure no foreign interference upsets this historic shift in global power. 2026 on Moan. 24 AUG. 2026, the ISO 20022 messaging that defines how banks transmit payment information completes its transition across all major banking rails. For the first time in history, SWIFT, Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of England, BRICS, IMF, and all high-value cross-border payment systems will speak the same transaction language. 2026, the first week in SEP 2026 redemption centers will start processing live appointments in accordance with full G. The schedule is already being filled with authorized Tier 4B participants, according to sources within 2 U.S. agencies. F. In the context of GCR, Global Currency Reset. In the realm of the Global Currency Reset, Tier 1-5 has an entirely different meaning. It represents a hierarchy of awareness, readiness, and access. Tier 1. Central banks, sovereign treasuries, financial elites. Tier 2. Private banking institutions, massive trusts, religious financial networks. Tier 3. Historical bondholders, private wealth families, whales. Tier 4A. Military-connected insiders and operatives. Tier 4B. The awakened digital community, YOU. Tier 5.
What we think we know as of Saturday, August 22nd, 2026. Friday, August 21st, breaking special report, The Outlaw Ledger. Canada is not a partner, it's an empire. Friday, August 21st, 2026, financial collapse warning. Professor Yang calls the U.S. economy a Ponzi scheme. Scott Bessent fights back as the 50-year-old petrodollar system begins to crack. Bombshell announcement. President Trump doubles down on CBDC ban. I signed a historic executive order banning any attempt to create a central bank. Friday, August 21st, explosive report. Scott Bessent erupts over tariff refunds. The American people had the money and we were forced to give it back. Friday, August 21st, blackout files. Gates, Bezos, and Thiel exposed, funding the world's largest pedophile network, turning schools into grooming labs under a total media blackout. Friday, August 21st, breaking U.S. debt clock detonation. Viral coming soon. Message inspires millions with vision of a new American economic system featuring 0% income tax, 0% property tax, and 0% gains tax. Friday, August 21st, Edward Snowden sounds the alarm. The digital surveillance machine is already here. They can control your device, your data, your life.
BREKING. The U.S. military has shocked Iran, quietly establishing a shipping lane in and out of the Strait of Hormuz, where now millions of barrels of oil are being moved per day. Axios, citing 2 U.S. officials, Dan. 21 Aug. 2026, some nights have hit 15-20 million barrels. This comes as President Trump and Scott Bessent confirmed pipelines are surging construction to bypass the strait. The Hormuz Strait's not gonna be quite as important in the past. The covert shipping strategy is beyond simply escorting outbound ships, Axios reports. The military is helping tankers enter the Gulf through the strait, pick up oil and leave fully. J. Exposed. Your birth certificate is a financial bond, and you're the collateral. 107 JFK Jr. 2026. From the moment you were born, a system of control was placed over you. Your birth certificate is not just a document. It's a financial instrument, a bond worth billions, traded as collateral to fuel a corrupt financial system. You were never free. You were turned into a commodity, a human asset leveraged to sustain national debt. This is the greatest deception ever perpetrated, and they never wanted you to find out. Ever wonder why every government requires a birth certificate? It's not about identity, it's about ownership. Just like a ship arriving at port requires a manifest for its cargo, your birth certificate serves as proof that you were entered into their economic system as property. Your name in all capital letters. That's a corporate entity, your legal fiction. That red serial number. It's a stock exchange number, used to trade your value in global financial markets. You've been turned into a financial instrument, a resource exploited by the elite while you remain unaware. In 1933, the U.S. declared bankruptcy and pledged every citizen as collateral to back its debt. Gold was confiscated. Debt-based money was introduced. And you became an economic asset. Your birth certificate was converted into a bond and sold to international investors. The system calculates your worth, trades it, and profits from you without you ever seeing a cent. This isn't conspiracy, it's documented financial fraud. Every government-issued certificate represents ownership. A stock certificate means shares in a company. A land certificate signifies property ownership. And a birth certificate, it signifies ownership of you. The elites don't see you as a free individual. They see you as an economic unit, TAXED, TRACKED, and controlled to keep the system alive. The truth is undeniable. The system thrives on your ignorance. It has turned every individual into a financial instrument, ensuring you remain blind to your own enslavement. But now you know, and knowledge is power. You can either continue living as a commodity, unknowingly feeding their machine, or you can take back control. The choice is yours.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. You know, I'm just like everybody else. I'm impatient. I wanted justice, in 2020, 2021. A lot of things had to happen in order to get to this point. But as it relates to the national security emergency, I don't know if you heard Wayne Allen Root asked President Trump directly, you have the authority to call a national security emergency. Did you hear what he said back?
Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. Now, here's, Juanito and I had a multiple hour conversation, and I absolutely agree that if we pulled the trigger too soon, and we did it today, there's legal challenges.
What did we do today? What happened today?
If we did the national security emergency today for the election in advance of the midterms, there's going to be legal challenges to it.
Hold on. Okay, so I kind of understand this. So you're saying the later the better. Basically, don't give them a chance to be able to prepare and fire back.
Oh, yeah. They'll get us wrapped up in the courts. There'll be legal challenges, right?
But they're going to do that anyway.
Well, okay, but here's the deal. Here's what will happen and this is why we're anticipating that it's going to be right about the time that we go to Vegas towards the end of September, because that's within almost 30 days of the election.
Well, Juan thinks October. Has he changed his mind?
September, end of September, beginning of October, within about 30 days of the election. He has to declare a national security emergency because it's not just an executive order that these states are and all these leftists are ignoring, especially in the blue states. They're literally violating the law that was put place back in 2018. And a lot of people don't know about this. December 18th, I think it was, of 2025. There it is right there. The National Defense Authorization Act, Section 6805, required that within 180 days of that December 18th law enactment, they had to perform penetration tests of their election systems. Okay. And then when you do the penetration tests, you get a list of vulnerabilities, and it tells you, okay, all of these holes you got to fill, and you need to monitor them. So they have to identify.
Some of the states had to have done it. None of them did it.
Say that again.
Some of the states had to have done it, but you're saying none of them have done it?
Actually, I'm part of a team that contacted every single state, and none of them have done it.
So no states
have done it. None
have done penetration tests, which means
that they have to analyze
not in compliance.
Well, not just not in compliance. They can't do an election if they haven't done the penetration test, determine their vulnerabilities. And the reason why I say they can't do an election is because if they do not follow that law, then they're not in compliance with what they call HAVA. It's it's a election law. They don't get any federal funding from HAVA. And if they don't get funding from HAVA, they can't afford to do their elections. So they're not in compliance. They cannot do the midterm elections without having completed that. He could declare an emergency on this alone right here.
Okay, so they've got to know. They got to know the SAVE Act didn't pass. That was probably the best thing that happened, by the way, because we know this is what's in his sights now. But they got to know this is coming. The Democrats have to know, and that's why I think they're going to depend on the MSN to say that Trump is this tyrannical dictator. He's a Hitler. He's trying to steal the election, and that is why we're seeing ABC try to get ahead of the ball and sue the FCC now and kind of put this in court so that anything Trump does, they're already in litigation or something, right? I mean, does that make sense to you?
Here's another thing is that, the ODNI report hasn't been released. We already know about China. They've already been releasing information about the, China's involvement in the election. And come to find out, China's involvement in the election, you know how they printed up the driver's licenses and shipped those to the U.S.? That was done at the behest of a bunch of leftists here in the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not all China. So here's what Juan O'Savin and I have come up with, that the military has to intervene. It can't be President Trump, pushing the brakes, pumping the brakes on this thing. That the military and the higher level, trusted intel people need to come in and say, there's no way we can go into this midterm election the way we are right now. It actually would, we already know that it has vulnerabilities. We can't do it because your vote won't be secure.
So, Pete, would you say that maybe a press conference takes place and Trump is joined with military personnel at the press conference and they come out and speak on behalf of him?
Yes.
Or with him, so that it looks more legitimate, so it doesn't look like it's him. That's the way I would have to do it if I was him. That's the way I would do it.
Everyone become familiar with this term. It's called continuity of government. Okay? Continuity of government dictates, and this is how the military operates at the highest levels of our Department of Energy, right? If, let's say, the Eastern Seaboard is wiped out because of a nuclear attack, there's a line of succession. There's a chain of command that they still follow. They pull the 3-ring binder off the shelf and they go page by page and they say, here's what we do. Well, when we're in a condition like we're in right now, we're in a continuity of government emergency as far as the military is concerned. Certain things have failed. You can't rely upon the elections. Everybody knows this. Everyone
so we are in that right now. That's what people feel.
We are in a continuity. There's no doubt about it. Now, I told Juan O'Savin that when I was in the military at the tail end, when I got injured, I actually wrote portions of the Continuity of Government Manual, FCD1, Federal Continuity Directive, because I did aviation weapons, and I read the manual that said that these are the conditions, that if this happens, here's how you get a nuclear weapon from the flight line into the deep underground military bases. It's a very specific
You wrote that?
You don't even need a commander-in-chief, right?
You wrote that? Is that what
I wrote a portion of it related to how to secure our munitions, how to secure nuclear, biological, chemical, and conventional weapons during a continuity of government scenario, right? So we are, no doubt about it, in a continuity of government emergency. The military has to restore us back. It has to be done that way. Now, guess what? Posse comitatus prohibits them from doing it. You need a civilian authority. That's President Trump, believe it or not. You have to have that civilian authority that says we have to do this temporarily. FEMA or those elements in the Emergency Management Act, those people are the civilians that use the military to get this done. And they say, we have to secure. This is very well documented, by the way. This isn't, I'm not just making this up. You can go look up FCD-1. Go look at the Federal Continuity Directive. Not you, but the listening audience. I don't want you reading that.
That's why.
Huh?
Oh, emergency planning.
Yeah, FCD-1, Federal Continuity Directive 1, right, is the FEMA directive. And basically, the quasi comitatus says the military can't just come in and take over. You have to have a layer in between the military and the American people, and that's the civilian authority. FEMA has a lot of power. Emergency planning, yeah, if you look up FCD-1, the Federal Continuity Directive.
That's what I put. It just says, it says right here. I guess I can read here.
Yeah.
Federal. Yeah. Can you see it or no?
Yeah, it is. It is very, very detailed. It's very explicit. I believe that we're in it right now. Now, they're not violating an executive order that came from President Trump. Congress actually signed into law the National Defense Authorization Act with 6805. I don't know if you have that graphic with the red lines on it. I mean, people could go look it up and read it. The section 6805 of the NDAA that was put into law is what they're violating right now. And they cannot get money for their elections. They can't afford to do their elections if they're in violation of the law. There's another one. I don't know if you received it. At 6805. That's okay. But that is there it is right there. That's the section. It's short, sweet, and simple, isn't it? Can you just read the red lines?
It's right to the point, isn't it?
It is right to the point.
Requiring penetration testing as part of the testing and certification of voting systems. Section 231 of the Help America Vote Act of 2002, 52 HAVA. Okay. Yeah, well, Help America Vote Act. USC 20971 is amended by adding at the end the following new subsection requiring penetration testing. Wow. In general, no later than 180 days after the date of the enactment of this subsection, the Commission shall provide for the conduct of penetration testing as part of the testing, certification, decertification, and recertification of voting system hardware and software by the Commission based on accredited laboratories under this section.
Yes. Now, by the way,
there it is.
The accredited laboratory, guess who one of them is?
It's some kind of bullshit.
QUX Technologies.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, okay.
Believe it or not, we're actually certified. We've got government standard stuff.
Your technologies?
QUX Technologies. We've been involved in this for years now. We started out with post-quantum encryption with this, but here's what we do, and this is why I do know this. Did you know about this law? Did you know about it?
No, dude. I mean, I heard it from you before, right? You're the one that told me this. Juan's never even said anything about this that I can remember, not in this detail at least. So no, I'll give you credit. You're the first to bring this to my attention. You brought it to my attention before, so I knew about this. But in detail, yeah, you're the one that broke this to me.
This relieves a lot of pressure on President Trump because could you imagine he's got like mail-in ballot stuff that was challenged to the Supreme Court. You know, it was an executive order, right? And they say he's just being a tyrant. You know, he's pushing the SAVE Act. You know, he's trying to do that. That's getting stopped. This is law. Congress said you must do this, and they failed to do it and are going into the midterms right now. Our elections are not secure, period. They haven't followed the law. It was mid-June that they were required to do the penetration test. And what they do is they get a list of vulnerabilities, and they say, oh, these computers right here, China can hack into them. We need to plug those holes right there. All they have to do is identify their vulnerabilities. They haven't even done that. They have not even determined how China and any other country can get into our elections. Does that mean it's secure? Secure? It means it's unsecure.
That's just such. I mean, and they're all gung ho, aren't they? They're so ready.
Oh, they need this one election, dude. This is the one election that they need.
Oh man, you drive around El Paso, dude, and it's all Democrat signs outside of the people's yards. It's disgusting to me to look at, but it's like they're ready, man. They're ready to fight back and take the election back. So when Trump does this, can you imagine the backlash?
Can be no doubt about that. The U.S. government shut down on October 1st, and there's no sign that it's going to reopen. September 30th is the fiscal year end for the United States Corporation, and it looks like this time they really didn't get the money to continue. Now, what I know from previous experience is that when there is a default at the international level, they're given 15 days to come up with the money. And that means that if I am right about this, starting sometime next week, the U.S. military will no longer be receiving their paychecks, and it will be game over for the current system. I'm hoping this is going to happen, and we're trying to set up a war council to deal with the transition away from the United States Corporation and to something that, once again, restores power to the people. Now, to understand how important this is, I want you to take a look at this picture here. This is the Trump cabinet meeting with the heads of the Chabad Lubavitch organization. These people are not Jews. They worship Satan. Their founder, the fact that the Trump cabinet is in on this is a sign that they need to be removed, and that's why the White Hats have placed a 100-kilogram bounty on each person in that photograph. And my understanding is that your friends and your family are removed, arrested, and brought to justice, that the reward can be collected at any BRICS nation embassy or perhaps or Taiwan or China. In other words, also they have to be removed. And the fact that Trump is in that picture tells you everything. Now, the other thing is, that right now, Donald Trump is talking about sending Tomahawk missiles to Russia. Okay? Now, that is nothing more than an attempt to start World War III, because if Tomahawk missiles are sent to Russia, that means only Pentagon officials, U.S. military people, have the ability to carry such attacks out. And that means that they're going to try to start World War III, which is exactly what Chabad wants. And the other thing that the military and the intelligence community need to understand is that the civilian governments in the West are not working for the people. They are controlled by this cult through a combination of blackmail and bribery. Well, you can see that 93 out of 100 senators do not work for the American people. They work for Benjamin Netanyahu, which is, the majority of the people. This is just not right. This is not a system of government. This is a system of slavery. Now, I understand that there is an attempt by Trump to, impose military law, and he wants to use U.S. troops to go after his opponents in the United States. And, to his credit, he is going after Antifa and George Soros and all these, terror groups financed by the Zionists or the Satanists, and that's a good thing. But it's not, it's not enough just to go after your enemies. The whole thing has to be cleaned up, and until we see the Epstein stuff out there, this is not going to work. And the other thing is that there's nothing he can do about the United States being bankrupt. He's not going to be able to extort enough money from Europe or Japan or anywhere else to pay for what he needs to pay for. It's just not going to happen. The whole thing has to be shut down. And as I've said before, the White Hats are standing by with an offer to finance a jubilee in the United States. That means all debt, public and private, will be written off, and there will be a redistribution of assets. All the money that was stolen from the people through central bank fraud will be returned. It should be several $100,000 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. So it's good that this thing falls apart. It should have happened a long time ago, but that is what we're going to do now. And there is no other choice. We're going through a very tough transition, but at the end of the day, everyone will be freed from Babylonian debt slavery. That's what we're working on. Now, the other thing that people need to be aware of is that there is evidence now we really are dealing with a rogue artificial intelligence. If you look at the huge amounts of money being spent on AI, on these mega databases by companies like Oracle, NVIDIA, and ChatGPT, you'd think that there's a business plan behind that. But no, the data shows that 95% of companies are unable to make money from AI. In fact, it's now turning out that AI is actually causing productivity to fall because lazy employees use AI to make reports that look plausible, but because AI cannot check facts, it's not connected to reality, it ends up causing more work for coworkers. And right now, this AI thing has gone so far, and this internet stuff has gone so far that 70% of content produced on the internet now is created by AIs, and 60% of communications is bots talking to each other. This is not a good way to use our energy or our money, to have bots talking to each other, and it needs to be removed from the system. They need to unplug all this. I mean, I've been watching some documentaries, and the AI is really awful. Like I was watching a documentary on the Battle of Waterloo, and they had these AI images with cannons firing from the wrong end. Or, they had one on Kennedy where they featured this orange-haired young guy who wasn't Kennedy yet, because AI is unable to distinguish realities. What I'm trying to say is that the one thing that has been booming in the United States, the super high stock market valuations of most of these high-tech companies, is a hallucination. It's one of the biggest bubbles in history, and it is about to burst. The other thing is that France is very close to revolution. I think they lost their 5th prime minister in 2 years, and support for Emmanuel Macron is now at 14%, which is a record low for any French president. And Emmanuel Macron is a front for Jean-Michel de Rothschild. And my French intelligence sources tell me in the satanic hierarchy he is above Donald Trump or any of these other people. So if France falls and Macron is either arrested or flees the country, that will be the first domino. But when it falls, that will result in blackmailed pedophiles like Keir Starmer in the UK, Mark Carney in Canada, the Mertz in Germany. All these people will fall, and I'm believing that Trump is not going to last either. That's what I'm hearing. Now, again, like all of you, or most of you, I supported the Trump who was elected in January to clean up the deep state, and he was trying very hard to do that, but he has not been seen since June. So the Trump we're seeing now is a Chabad puppet, not the original Trump from the U.S. Space Force, the white hat Trump. I haven't seen him, but you can tell that the current Trump is compromised because he was there with Alec Bourla of Pfizer promising $70 billion. Bourla should be facing war crimes charges, not, being treated as a hero. And the other thing is, I want you to take a look at this video from Finland showing a journalist being arrested for This is fascism, and right now they're trying to pass laws in Canada, the UK, Germany, the US, where if you write something they don't like on the internet, they can arrest you, they can cut you off. They're trying very hard to prevent us from realizing the truth, which is that we're ruled by Satan worshippers who use a system of Babylonian debt slavery. This system is now collapsing. So, I hear the White Hats are going to be holding a war council, and they're going to find concrete ways to move in Mar-a-Lago and arrest all the people there, and move into the Senate and arrest the people there. All the traitors need to be arrested. Now, the other thing is, the breaking news is that Trump did not get the Nobel Prize. It was a Venezuelan opposition leader. So that means that a decision has been made that, Trump cannot continue. He's not viable. So that's a very important thing that's happened. So definitely something big is in the pipeline, and I think the coming week is going to be historical. Let's see what happens, but there will be war councils. There will be a lot of stuff going on in the background. Right now, there are heavy-duty back-channel communications between the U.S. military, British intelligence, and the Russians. But the Chinese are out of the loop in this. This is going to be a Western solution to the Western problems, and then we can deal with China. But first, the West needs to remove its satanic infection, and that's what's going on. Okay, well, that's about what I have to say for myself this week. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. Does the Commonwealth exist? If so, who is in control of the Commonwealth, and how can you help us reform this?
The Commonwealth is still very strong, and it's built on a network of personal connections at high levels, and I'm hearing that there's going to be a serious reform in the British royal family, but the key to the Commonwealth becoming viable again is to make sure that India and other Commonwealth members are full participants, because when it existed in the past, it was a sort of a white man's club with white men at the top, and no one from India or somewhere else could rise to the top of the Commonwealth. That is now changing so that it will be possible to have someone from India or Belize or any other Commonwealth country run the organization, and it's They have historical links. They're linked by the English language. They have sports meetings and lots of personal communications. And you know, it wasn't really an evil organization, although it had its flaws. And I think the Commonwealth will become increasingly important. And behind the scenes, the Commonwealth has been allied with China to do the Belt and Road Initiative and other peaceful things for the good of the planet. So I'm a great supporter of the Commonwealth, and I'm hoping it will be reformed so that it continues to stay as a major force for friendship and good relations between nations. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Trump is visiting Japan on October 27th. The objective may be stripping money from Japan as the U.S. is bankrupt. Nonetheless, Japan has no money to save U.S. bankruptcy, as the agriculture bank Nochu has lost a huge amount of money in the U.S. bond market, and I cannot imagine any significant amount of money is left in Japan. Inform us why Trump is coming to Japan, and if Trump's objective is money to avoid U.S. bankruptcy, where is this money in Japan?
Well, yeah, I mean, he is going to come to try to extort money. I don't know if he'll be around until then. I'm hoping not. But, you know, the thing with the Japan Agricultural Bank is a real crime. You see, the Norinchukin, the Japanese Agricultural Bank, is actually a real bank in the sense that it's 100% deposit base. It's all its money is actual deposits. And most U.S. banks, more than 90% of what they lend is not backed by deposits. It's just money they put on their books out of nothing. So what happened was they used pressure on Norinchukin, probably threatened to kill their management or something, to force them to hand over money, which is, you know, disguised as bond losses. And then Norinchukin, to recoup that, raised the price of rice drastically in Japan, which caused a popular revolt against the Japanese government. And you know, the government, I mean, when people's food is impacted, that's when the, you know, sleeping masses wake up, because that's something that they're not going to stand. So I guarantee you, even if he does come, he'll leave empty-handed, because Japan has nothing to hand over. The same is true of Europe. Germany's economy is 20% smaller than it was in 2018 because it's been forced to buy expensive oil and gas from the United States, and the Europeans do not have the 1.3 trillion to give the U.S. that they think. So I doubt he'll come, but if he does, he'll leave empty-handed, and hopefully, if he does show up, they'll arrest him for war crimes. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Can you clarify if the military brass attended that meeting that was called? You originally said in your Monday newsletter they wouldn't attend because it was possibly a trap. Real Raw News is stating that about 250 were requested to take polygraph tests to prove if they were loyal to Trump. I know RRN isn't 100% to be trusted, but it's an interesting take since you initially said it might be a trap. If they did decide to go, what was the actual purpose?
Well, I did talk to people about that, and the conclusion was that they made sure that everybody would be safe, but the speech that Trump made and then that Hegseth made was very badly received. But right now, a large part of the military is still following Trump because he's their nominal commander-in-chief, but a growing group is aware that the real Trump has been replaced by a fake and that their commander-in-chief is not there. But there is a group that is still trying to start or use a threat to start World War III in order to get more money to keep the U.S. government going, but I don't think it's going to work. So what will probably happen is when the military stop getting their paychecks, they'll finally wake up. But I do know there's been a split with the Five Eyes, and so that right now at the highest level of the intelligence community, they are no longer with Trump, and they're negotiating with Russia for Ukraine peace, and also Israel has basically lost the war in Gaza, and Egypt has moved in. So we'll see, but there is still a group in the military that probably has some sort of compromat held against them that is still behind Trump. That's the reality right now. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Wasn't 9/11 and Iraq thing all connected with Bush and Tony Blair? The same Tony Blair that hasn't gone away despite the links. Instead, he's made a, quote, sir, for what it's worth. Now they're handing him out Disney tickets, like Disney tickets these days. Instead of being somewhere else more deserving, Blair has allegedly snagged the being in charge of Gaza role. Have you heard anything about this?
What I heard is the reason Tony Blair was not executed for his pedophile crimes and other things is that he secretly provided a lot of testimony about the cabal and Epstein Island and all that kind of stuff. But there's no way on earth that he's going to be made governor of Gaza. As I mentioned earlier, the Egyptians are actually in there now. Israel's actually lost the war. The only thing we're seeing is fake news on our screens, but that's not the reality on the ground in Israel. And I'm sure that Israel is about to be replaced by the multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious state of Judea. And Blair will have no role in that. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. Another earthquake has hit the Philippines. This is the second earthquake this month. Is this some form of super weapon or is it natural?
I'd have to look into that, but as a general rule, if it's an artificial earthquake, you have to look at the seismograph because it has a telltale sign. It starts with a big bang and then boom, 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 like that. Whereas if it's natural, it goes boom, 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 boom. And the other thing is you have to look at where it was, because if the earthquake started around a military base, then you can tell it was some kind of weapons attack. I'll have to look into that, but you can do your own research by looking for the seismograph and seeing if there's a military base around the epicenter. Okay, well, that's what I have to say this week. But like I say, we're going to try behind the scenes to set up a war council and put an end to this nightmare because it's gone on way too long. And I think next week we'll see a lot of historical stuff. And I'm hearing that from my Pentagon sources, too. They say something. Let's start with President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet choices. There's some good news. Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his nomination as Attorney General, and Pam Bondi, Florida Attorney General, is now the new candidate. And she, unlike Gaetz, is on the record as being against pedophiles and sex criminals. So this is a sign that there will be a crackdown. Furthermore, Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, has said that a lot of the 300,000 or over 300,000 missing children who crossed the border into the U.S. Went to pedophiles, and that they're going to investigate that. So it looks like we have a real crackdown on these, in the public domain. And of course, they're freaking out big time. The Khazarian mafia are still desperately trying to start World War III, but the military is not listening to them. They tried this long, missile attack into Russia because Russia had previously warned that such an attack could lead to nuclear war, but instead the Russians know very well that these people are trying to start World War III, and they're not going to let them do that. But they did retaliate with a weapon that's never been seen before, and it's a multi-warhead ICBM but non-nuclear missile. So what the Russians have done, as you can see, is demonstrate that they know who they're dealing with and that it's not the real governments of the United States and the West. They're dealing with a rogue faction that is about to be removed from power. And they are getting desperate. I mean, there's now shredding trucks outside the Justice Department. They're trying to shred documents to hide evidence. And they're doing other things. So I'm hearing that, if things get too bad, there will be some kind of military action inside the U.S. before January 20th. In other words, we don't want to leave these criminals on the loose and in power much longer. Now, the other thing that's going on, of course, is the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and others, including Hamas members who, work with Netanyahu or Netanyahu. And this is a clear sign that there's some kind of crackdown that's going on, and that these people will face justice for their crimes in Gaza and in Ukraine. Vladimir Zelensky is also going down as a war criminal, but more important, we're going to see removal of governments in Canada and the UK and Australia, and probably New Zealand as well, as the regime change in the Five Eyes continues. Now, as far as Canada is concerned, it looks like Donald Trump is taking up the offer to become the first president of the United States of North America. And believe me, Canada does not have a functioning government right now. It is controlled by criminals who stole the election with the help of Alex Soros. And Alex Soros, by the way, is threatening to hit the people with, no, Alex Soros, you're going to jail and probably going to face the death penalty. So, think about that, because it's going to happen. Now, getting back to Canada, I want you to watch this clip to see what sort of farce substitutes as government in Canada now. So you can see that the Speaker of the House, who's the homosexual lover of Cass Trudeau, according to the CIA, is cutting off the mic to prevent a member of Parliament from speaking. That's what happens in dictatorships, not in Canada. And it's to my great shame as a Canadian that the Canadian military and intelligence agencies were unable to prevent the takeover of that country by Nazis. In any case, Trump is probably going to take over. We'll see. And I have some direct involvement with that. Some Space Force people have contacted me. These are people I've met before who demonstrated some very unusual off-world Tesla technology. They are now in a certain Asian country to do the due diligence to confirm that there is gold to back the Future Planning Agency, and also this will help write off all U.S. and probably world debt, and we'll have a fresh start. There'll be a talk with Asian secret society representatives on Sunday to confirm this, and if the gold, if we can't prove the gold is there, then we'll have to start negotiations on a basket of commodities to back the financial system. But this is happening. And I try to avoid, woo-woo topics. I'm a here now guy in the real world operating on real news. But my Japanese military intelligence sources have told me that some very unusual anti-gravity craft have landed at the Yokota Air Base in Tokyo with members of the Secret Space Force. I will believe it 100% when I actually see it myself. I have asked for a chance to ride on an anti-gravity craft and then film it and share it with my audience. But until you see that or you ride one yourself, take all this with a grain of salt. But we are hearing from these sources, and it's becoming harder and harder to deny, that the quarantine on the planet Earth may be about to end, and that will be allowed off-world. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. Right now, I can get on an airplane and fly to Canada, but I cannot get on a flying saucer and fly to Mars. So we'll see. But it's getting more realistic, and there's more and more different sources confirming this. So again, until you see it with your own eyes, don't believe it 100%. But clearly, what's happening now is a lot more than just a presidential election. I really do think that this is the beginning of a new age, and I am hoping that we're going to be very pleasantly surprised many, many ways over the coming months. Let's see what happens. But It's clear the white hats have won, and it's a mopping up operation now. So, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from viewers and readers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. What are your thoughts on Trump's cabinet picks so far? How do you feel about him picking Dr. Oz to run Medicaid and Medicare services? To me, it seems a little comical, as Dr. Oz was involved in pushing back quack supplements that he claimed were miracles for weight loss.
I'm going to defer on that because I don't know enough about this guy, but the important thing is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's going to crack down on the systematic poisoning of the American people and Japanese and other people by the pharmaceutical industrial complex. So that's the one to watch. And as far as supplements are concerned, they're going to have scientific evidence to back their claims. Otherwise, they'll be cracked down on by the authorities, which is what they should have done in the first place. And now the other cabinet member I forgot to mention in my talk was the Commerce Secretary. I think it's Ludnick or something. He was the crypto guy that Elon Musk was pushing for Secretary of the Treasury. And the fact that he didn't get that job is further proof that they're going with the gold-backed system and not going to try to go into crypto. So that's an interesting pick. And also, it looks like it means they're going to try to come up with a deal with China that does not involve tariffs. It'll involve instead getting Chinese help to rebuild U.S. industry so that the United States does not have a chronic trade deficit with the rest of the world. Okay, next question.
Hi, Ben. Do you think the Biden administration will start World War III with Russia before Trump can get into office? I read recently that Ukraine struck Russia with U.S. missiles, not to mention that Putin said they would go nuclear if this occurred. How far do you think this will be taken?
My understanding, as I mentioned in my talk, is that the world's top military are not obeying the people behind the fake Biden administration, and they're not going to be fooled into starting World War III, which is the only get-out-of-jail card these Khazarian mafia have now. By the way, another thing I forgot to mention is that there was some kind of mysterious heavy-duty airstrike on Palmyra in Syria, and that's where they had the Ark of Satan. And again, I try to avoid woo-woo stuff, but I'm hearing that some kind of portal was shut. Again, I'll believe it when I see it, but that's what I'm hearing. Okay, next question.
Hi, Ben. It has been my understanding that Donald J. Trump supports Israel, but not the Zionists. The Zionists are the cabal's satanic regime controlling Israel, and Donald J. Trump will take down the Zionists to free the Israeli people from their evil tyranny. Am I wrong in thinking this?
I believe you're right. The Jewish people are going to be liberated after thousands of years of slavery under Babylonian Satanists, and Israel will be replaced by the nation-state of Judea that will include the native Judeans, misleadingly called Palestinians, with full citizenship rights. That's what I'm hearing. So yes, he's going to help liberate the Jews. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Russell J. Gold discovered that the U.S. bankruptcy was ending in 1999. Since then, USA corporations ceased to exist. He captured our flag and became CIC and Postmaster General. Since then, all these presidents have been selected and are illegitimate. He has developed a quantum financial system. Do you have any knowledge of him or what he's been doing? He says he has been beaten to death a couple of times over this because they were trying to get him to surrender, which tells me he is legitimate. Please enlighten us on this if you can. I was wondering if he is now working with Trump.
I don't know about this, but I do know that I actually know the person who developed the quantum financial system, and it's not him. And furthermore, the quantum financial system is already operating. people still mistakenly think that it's a SWIFT system that runs international finance. That is an old legacy system that uses Windows Vista, and it's used mainly by drug dealers now. And when I go to an ATM in Japan and withdraw money from a Canadian bank account, that is the quantum financial system. It's not run by him. It's right now going to be handed over, I hear, to the Future Planning Agency, depending the outcome of negotiations with the Asian secret societies. But I don't know more about this individual to make a meaningful comment. Other than that, I can confirm he did not start the quantum financial system, and he is not president of anything that I'm aware of. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. You mentioned last week that we should stop paying rent and not paying bond payments. Does this mean that if I have a property that someone is renting, I will lose the property? What about us that have worked hard to own separate properties to collect rental income?
The proposal we have on the table is that when everybody is given ownership rights to their residence, their primary residence, that landlords, with the exception of, mega landlords like Vanguard and State Street, but, the average little old lady living off rent will be given the equivalent of rental income in government money so that they will not suffer any loss of income. That's the plan on the table, but it's all going to be worked out in public with a lot of input from the people before this is actually implemented. But we understand that legitimate landlords need to be compensated and will be. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself this week, and let's see if we can finally get some rides on flying saucers before too long, maybe by next week, but only believe it when you see it. Anyway, I hope to...
Restored Republic via GCR. Judy note. See prepare yourself, the storm will break with QFS, Tier 4B Saturday 22nd of August, 2026, from Sunday 23rd of August, 2026. The QFS is no longer a test, it's the dawn of transparency, accountability, and freedom from cabal control. The countdown has begun, and there's nowhere left for the elites to hide. The quantum financial system is here to end every lie and deception ever used against us. Monday, August 10, 2026. Breaking: the four portals of the quantum financial system, QFS, USA, European, UK, Netherlands and Asia Africa Australia portals, are set to connect and transform the world. Discover how these portals will bring transparency, asset-backed currencies, and global financial freedom, ending deep state control. The quantum financial system, QFS, is here, set to forever change how the world handles money. The era of corrupt financial practices, hidden transactions, and deep state manipulation is coming to an end. The QFS promises transparency, security, and direct control over personal finances. The system operates through its four portals, gateways connecting the world's financial networks. This isn't just another financial overhaul, it's a transformation of the global economy. The four portals of the QFS connect continents and bring financial autonomy to millions. 1. USA Portal, the lifeblood of the Americas, covering North, Central, and South America. The USA Portal ensures connection to the QFS across the Western Hemisphere. The introduction of the US note, USN, an asset-backed currency tied to gold and silver, replaces the corrupt systems centered around the US dollar. With this shift, the Federal Reserve's control over the American economy ends, marking the collapse of the fiat system. Impact on everyday people: the USA Portal will empower citizens from Canada to Chile with direct access to their wealth, free from bank manipulation. This portal brings unprecedented stability through the USN, an asset-backed currency providing financial sovereignty across the continent. 2. European Portal, reclaiming financial sovereignty, breaking free from the euro. The European Portal allows countries like Netherlands, Spain, Italy, France, and Germany to reclaim financial independence. Each nation will issue its own QFS-linked currency backed by assets, ensuring the end of financial manipulation. A united, yet independent Europe, under the QFS, Each country will manage its economy independently while retaining transparency and security. This shift means financial freedom for individuals and national autonomy, signaling the end of the deep state's control over Europe's financial systems. 3. UK Portal, a return to sterling strength. The UK Portal introduces the sterling token, an asset-backed currency restoring financial independence to England. This new currency, supported by the QFS, ends Britain's reliance on the euro and deep state influence, with each transaction secure and traceable. 4. Asia-Africa-Australia Portal, a continental shift in power. Covering a vast area including India, South Africa, Australia, and all of Asia, this portal represents a seismic shift in global financial power. The QFS will support these nations with asset-backed currencies, promoting economic prosperity from their own resources rather than exploitation by external forces. Unleashing a new wave of prosperity, Asia, Africa, Netherlands, and Australia, once battlegrounds for financial manipulation, will experience newfound prosperity. This portal promises a future where wealth benefits the people and economies of these regions, free from external interference. The grip of the deep state is loosening as financial freedom becomes a reality. The Tier 4B activation, the secure satellite uplink to the non-custodial Tier 4B validation terminals has transitioned from testing to live execution. The asset-backed sovereign funds, backed by the physical gold re-anchored to the U.S. Treasury, are now officially mapped to the local routing networks. The Quantum Handshake, over 12,000 regional and local credit unions have successfully integrated the ISO 20022 protocol over the last 4 hours. The corrupt Tier 1 mega banks that refuse to comply with the asset-backed standards have had their settlement privileges permanently revoked by the military alliance. The Nizarul liquidations, the hidden offshore pools used by the globalist corporations to short the markets and suppress humanity, have been completely drained. Those funds have been legally redirected into the primary redemption accounts. The distribution protocols are locked. They told you the old system was too big to fail. They wanted you to believe you were trapped in their endless debt loop forever. Look at the sudden, forced updates on your personal banking apps tonight. Look at the emergency internal memos leaked from the administrative floors of Wall Street. The old world didn't just crash. The keys to the entire global wealth ledger were handed back to the people. The ghost currency is evaporating. The real asset-backed era is officially online. You held the line through the darkest hours of the deception. Now, watch the monitors as the old machine loses its power forever. 022 Sovereign, the reconciliation begins. The countdown has hit 0. The new dawn is already here. F Global Currency Reset. On Thursday, August 20, 2026 at exactly 8:14 p.m. Eastern, the old SWIFT Central Clearinghouse experienced a permanent database decoupling. The secondary handshake between the central banks of the G7 nations officially returned a terminal failure message. Thursday, 20 August 2026 Bruce, the big call, a higher-up said they were handling bonds in Miami, Geneva, and Reno. A military intel person said that as of 6 p.m. EST on Wednesday 19/20/26 there was a 5-day window where Tier 4B would receive notification to set exchange/redemption appointments and be able to start appointments. That would take it to Monday, August 24, 2026. On Thursday, 20th of August, Redemption Center leaders received saying that they should go into work on Friday, August 21, 2026 at 8:45 a.m. Thursday, August 20, 2026 Paymasters report full release. Direct confirmations have been sent to private transaction platforms in Reno and Zurich confirming that Tier 1 and Tier 2 payouts had been finalized. Tier 3 and Tier 4A, be next. If you're in the private groups, get ready now. Military movements confirmed to secure transition. Sources in Intel report increased security around major financial centers. Private security details have been deployed to Reno, Zurich, and Dubai. Special ops teams were making sure no foreign interference upsets this historic shift in global power. On Monday, August 24, 2026, the ISO 20022 messaging, that defines how banks transmit payment information, completes its transition across all major banking rails. For the first time in history, SWIFT, Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of England, BRICS, IMF and all high-value cross-border payment systems will speak the same transaction language. August 18, 2026. The first week in September 2026, redemption centers will start processing live appointments in accordance with full JESR protocol. The schedule is already being filled with authorized, Tier 4B, participants, according to sources within 2 U.S. agencies. Judy note, your exchange/redemption appointment, as far as I know, which may be incorrect, anyone who has bought foreign currency and/or ZIM bonds from a valid deal, text or phone to obtain an 800 number and code used to set your exchange/redemption appointment at a redemption center of your choice. Get your plans/projects together and don't wait around for this to happen without being ready. No straight cash will be given. You are in charge of your funds and can place funds in different accounts. Advisors will be there to assist you with your funds and will help guide you in your projects or choosing one on the list. You can take to your appointment, advisors/bank contacts, if you have already spoken to a specific person, friend/any person/s you want to assist you. ZimCap information is changing daily, but as of now they are paying as follows: no projects equals 15 million no matter amount you might hold, with projects equals first 2 bond notes are 1-to-1 after this 25 million, per 100 T, up to 30 bond notes. To negotiate further you will need to return. If you are a ZIM holder and in dire medical need, you might be able to set a medbed appointment at your redemption. This was because they are anxious to get the humanitarian programs going that were funded by your ZIM bonds. Movements of Global Military Alliance as of Tuesday, August 11, 2026, Saturday 22nd of August, 2026, Global Military Alliance secures mainframe access to Central Intelligence and Deep State data servers, exposing direct funding trails to global manipulation campaigns. Emergency Special Operations Teams confiscate multi-billion-dollar offshore gold reserves and digital asset vaults tied to compromised sovereign wealth funds. Mass detentions of senior international corporate directors and financial technocrats implicated in designing global supply chain bottlenecks and artificial scarcity networks. Space Force defense units neutralize foreign satellite infrastructure used by elite cabal networks for encrypted command and control operations. Over 100,000 military tribunal prosecutors and investigators deployed across secured jurisdictions to process millions of pages of recovered digital evidence and witness depositions. Tuesday, August 11, 2026, complete shutdown of compromised SWIFT financial messaging nodes and commercial banking verification gateways. Global command structures confirm that the transition to direct military oversight of critical infrastructure is 100% complete. The old power structure is unable to recover or communicate. All secure channels are on standby for the imminent broadcast of documentary archives and prosecution logs across all intercepted networks. The final systemic dismantling of the elite class is reaching its culmination. Maintain operational awareness and monitor verified disclosure feeds. The Reset, eye-breaking dossier, Jerome Powell is enemy number one of finance, federal court moves to crush Federal Reserve. August 22, 2026. Something unthinkable just happened. A federal court just dropped the hammer on Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, revealing a secret economic war on the American people. Powell, who has long been portrayed as an impartial economist, is now revealed as a globalist enforcer running a monetary dictatorship behind closed doors. His title is Fed Chair, but what is his job? The number one financial enemy. The Federal Reserve has been a shadow government for over a century, setting interest rates, printing debt-based currency and engineering booms and busts while being above the law. But under Powell it became something darker. The execution arm of the globalist Great Reset. It is not serving America. It serves Davos. And the numbers tell the story. Over $2 trillion in deficit spending, $1 trillion in interest payments, and mortgage rates so high that the American dream has collapsed. At the same time, Wall Street, BlackRock and the WEF dine on the spoils. Trump was correct, the Fed doesn't work for the people. It serves a world syndicate. In a landmark decision, a judge ordered an emergency injunction stopping the secret of FOMC meetings of the Fed. The court has indicated that Powell's fortress of secrecy could be breached, revealing decades of backroom deals, rate manipulation and financial sabotage. Trump's legal offensive is in full swing, demanding total transparency, criminal investigations, and the destruction of Powell's grip on the American economy. This is not policy debate, it's economic war. Powell's Fed has used rate hikes to crush families, block home ownership and swell big bank profits. Gold has soared 28% this year, a global vote of no confidence in Mr. Powell's leadership. The dollar is in free fall. The pain is real, and not accidentally. Behind Powell, a deeper alliance is emerging. BlackRock and Big Pharma are a triad of finance that is using the central bank system to take away Americans' wealth, ownership and independence. Powell is the man on the gun. The money comes from the Fed. BlackRock purchases the assets. Pharma keeps you trapped on lifetime prescriptions, paid for by inflation printed by the Fed. That's coordinated control. Trump is the only world leader calling this out by name. While others bow down to Klaus Schwab and the tyranny of central banks, Trump is calling for a full audit of the Fed, criminal charges against Powell, and a complete separation from the globalist cartel. This is not about interest rates now, it's about national emancipation. America is writing its Declaration of Financial Independence now. No more unelected bankers running the economy. No more secret meetings deciding your future. No more debt slavery in the name of policy. End the Fed. Break up the cartel. Justice for the treasoners. Jerome Powell is not a public servant. He is the monetary arm of an occupying power, and his empire is coming apart at the seams. Trump's cracking the whip. And the people are ready to tear it down. Friday, August 22, 2026. The public still believes they're living in the same world they woke up in yesterday. But the foundations of that world, the banking grid, the medical grid, the communication grid, even the military command structure, have already shifted into a new architecture. And the transition happened without a single announcement. The first crack appeared on November 11, 2025, when a secure military node in Colorado Springs went dark for exactly 47 seconds. They called IT a routine system refresh. But the internal logs proved otherwise. Those 47 seconds marked the first QFS mirror link activation, where the old ledger was shadow copied into the new quantum frame. Then came the second break, December 7, 2025. DC went offline in a synchronized pattern that has only been documented twice in American history. The press didn't cover IT. The banks pretended nothing happened. But insiders know that this was the moment the old financial lifelines were severed from the global routing network. And that was merely the prescript. On December 10, 2025 to 3:14 UTC, the back end of the system registered the first Tier 4B authorization ping. The signal wasn't visible to the public. It was encoded, transmitted through quantum routers, and acknowledged by a classified military oversight node. Only 24 people in the country even saw IT. But that was the moment the transition stopped being theoretical, and became operational. This brings us to the date they fear most, January 1, 2026, the transition window. This is the moment everything was timed for. The blackout drills. The EBS tests. The digital migration patches that accidentally took down social media servers across the country. The silent coordination between Trump, military intelligence, and the restricted QFS task force. None of these were random. They were phase markers, hidden in plain sight. You will not hear a warning. The system will not ask for permission. There will be no press conference announcing the end of the old order. The old grid will simply stop responding. And the new one will boot up in front of you. Here's what is already verified behind the curtain. QFS ledger sync at 86% global completion, core Fed wire channels detached from source, medbed chambers pre-powered and on standby, military oversight activated under Contingency Protocol 22B, EBS routing tables rewritten for rapid national broadcast. The transition isn't coming, the transition is in motion. And most people will only realize IT when their old system fails to answer. And the new one takes its first breath. Remember this when everything goes silent. The system was replaced. I told the worker that they had just been flown in recently from the Gaza Strip, that they were members of Hamas, that I was unsure of their citizenship status. I said to them about 3 times, I was like, just so you're aware, they're members of Hamas. They just got here. They just kept telling me the same thing, which is, look, as long as you vouch for it, that's as far as our check goes. Saturday 22nd of August, 2026. Mike Lindell conducting largest election recount in U.S. history. A full-hand recount of the Minnesota governor's primary election will take place, and will be privately funded by Mike Lindell, which will cover all ballots, counts, anomalies and election night. Saturday 22nd of August, 2026. Representative Anna Paulina Luna says China is funding Democrat Socialist candidates. DSA is absolutely funded and tied to the Communist Chinese Party. We know, for instance, in their mega donors like Neville Royce Ingham, who are currently under investigation by the Department of Justice. Saturday 22nd of August, 2026, this 1967 recording explains everything happening today. Saturday 22nd of August, 2026, explosive report, 25,000 pages. One verdict, guilty. Putin delivers 25,000-page mRNA dossier to Trump, time to arrest Bill Gates for mRNA crimes. Saturday 22nd of August. 2026, bombshell announcement, Trump ends tax on Social Security, America's seniors finally keep what they earned, no tax on Social Security. Saturday 22nd of August. 2026, breaking, Trump unloads on Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie, calls them three losers in a scorching political takedown. But at 8:46 a.m. the first tower was hit. By 10 a.m. the world was in smoke, the announcement silenced, the gold and silver inside Building 7 vanished, and the truth was buried beneath rubble and propaganda. They murdered thousands to erase one law, and stole trillions to protect a system of slavery. But Nizara did not die. In 1993 the Supreme Court ruled in favor of farmers against the banks. The evidence was clear: fraudulent foreclosures, illegal taxation, a government in collusion with the Federal Reserve. The 16th Amendment had never been ratified. It was a lie, a century-long deception. The justices knew reform was inevitable, and they placed guardians to monitor the process. That process was never stopped. It was only delayed. The ink on Clinton's signature remained valid. The law still breathes. For 2 decades the deep state played its theater. Wars in the Middle East. Manufactured recessions. Financial crashes and bailouts. Presidents came and went, but behind the curtain the same bloodlines pulled the strings. Yet during this darkness, another current was moving. The White Hat Alliance built silently. Continuity of government was activated. Starlink satellites aligned. The quantum financial system was constructed. A living network immune to corruption, tied not to fiat but to energy signatures, transparency, truth. Now in 2025, the fracture is visible. The old system bleeds. Currencies wobble, nations break from the petrodollar, and whispers of Nizara rise again. The emergency broadcast system waits armed, ready to override every screen on Earth. The QFS hums beneath the surface, prepared to dissolve debt, erase slavery money, and install a new golden architecture. The plan is precise. When the switch is thrown, 2 streams collide: first the EBS, unmasking crimes, broadcasting tribunals, forcing the world to face the scale of deception, then the QFS, resetting the global economy, ending the Federal Reserve, releasing humanity from a century of theft. They will call it the Great Silence, 10 days where the internet goes dark, banks shutter, ATMs fail, and every channel becomes disclosure. But when that silence ends, humanity will wake into a reality it was promised long ago: Nizara fulfilled, QFS operational, EBS completed. What they buried on September 11th returns like a sword through the heart of the beast. This is not speculation. The law exists. The infrastructure exists. The guardians exist. The only unknown is the moment of ignition. So prepare your spirit, steady your mind, and hold your ground. Because when the signal breaks, the world you knew will collapse in hours, and the world they hid will rise in light. Nizara is not a dream. QFS is not theory. EBS is not a rumor. All three are real, and all three converge in our time. The question is not if. The question is when. And when that moment comes, nothing will ever be the same again. The House of Orsini claimed to trace themselves back to the Julio-Chadian dynasty of the old Roman Empire, according to Julian Assange. They are the heads of the 13 Venetian black nobility bloodlines. They founded the Jesuit order, and control the Vatican. They also control the Rothschild and Rockefeller families. Domenico Napoleone Orsini, nicknamed Pepe Orsini, is the most powerful man on earth. He is known as the Grey Pope. The Grey Pope controls the White Pope and Black Pope. Pepe Orsini wields unimaginable wealth and power, and he pulls the strings of presidents, prime ministers, and organized crime syndicates around the world, from behind closed doors. This is who Trump and his global military alliance were fighting. Pepe Orsini is head of the deep state Satan-worshipping Illuminati cabal, foreign banker elites who rule the world. They overrule the health industry and control the world's financial system. That way they control the people, and you don't even know it. Since 1896, when Tesla discovered how the body could heal itself through frequencies, these most powerful technologies have been locked behind closed doors by this deep state cabal. Kept in private clinics. Used in exclusive recovery rooms by those who could afford to never be sick. While the world was given pills to manage symptoms, drugs known to break down the body's immune system, The Satan-worshipping Illuminati cabal foreign banker elites were regenerating at the cellular level. The cabal kept it from you because if you knew what they did, their whole medical and pharmaceutical industries would go broke. Couldn't have that. The cabal Rockefellers and Carnegies had made sure the health field rejected natural healing through proper nutrition way back in 1910. In 1910, Rockefeller funded the Flexner Report that led to the closure of medical schools teaching homeopathy, naturopathy and other alternative methods. U.S. Incorporated owned the Federal Reserve, collected U.S. taxpayer monies through their own IRS and then sent the monies to the privately owned UK Crown in London. The Crown used the monies as they wished and then sent it on to the privately owned by Rothschild Vatican Bank and to their central banks across the world. About a month later the monies were returned to a Rothschild cabal-owned New York bank, which then lent the monies back, with interest, to the U.S. government to pay their federal employees. Congress has never approved a balanced budget, so the unregulated monies, along with owed interest, created the national debt. With the 1933 bankruptcy, the cabal needed to save their central banks across the world, so they pledged every American citizen as collateral to back U.S. debt. Gold was confiscated. Debt-based money was introduced. Your birth certificate was converted into a bond and sold to international investors. The system calculated your worth, traded it, and profited from you, without you ever seeing a cent. These elites don't see you as a free individual, they see you as an economic unit, taxed, tracked, and controlled to keep the system alive. And, they not only stole your taxpayer monies, but created a medical and pharmaceutical system where they stole your health as well. Spitting. According to Julian Assange, Trump has also signed a military arrest warrant charging Barack Obama with treason. Obama has been leading the deep state attack on our freedom. In the upcoming election, Trump can just sit back and do nothing, while the traitorous Democrats conspire with our foreign adversaries and use illegals to steal elections, overthrow our nation from within, and complete their communist takeover. Or, he can do what Trump does, act. Though, the problems are so vast that it's going to take more than the couple of years Trump has left in the president's seat. Perhaps an answer lay with going back to original concepts of the 1787 Constitution. A major pillar of the current military strategy involves the delegitimization of the 22nd Amendment. According to the below, historically, the limitation of presidential terms was a voluntary tradition established by George Washington, but it was not codified until the mid-20th century. This amendment was a strategic maneuver by deep state networks to prevent a populist president from holding power long enough to dismantle entrenched administrative structures. The strategic marker Trump 2028 serves as a signal for the final phase of legal reconstruction. By asserting that fraud vitiates every legal layer built upon it, the panel suggests that the original 1787 Constitution, which contained no term limits, is being restored as the primary law of the land. Under this framework, the upcoming years are viewed not as an extension of a civilian term, but as a transition back to a primal republic of sovereigns. Trump 2028 bombshell, the 22nd Amendment, the end of the two-party system and the battle for a restored American republic. Possible timing, President Trump has given the green light. He has activated the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, mobilized 300,000 troops, ordered the global military alliance to take over the mainstream fake news media and make mass arrests. Mr. Poole on Telegram Wednesday 19th of August, 2026. No official time frame has been given where we will begin isolating at home for 3 to 6 weeks after the global military alliance suspended the media, internet, phones and took over TV and radio to present 8-hour documentaries 24/7 about what was going on while the military took down the Illuminati deep state cabal-controlled governments worldwide and made mass arrests of corrupt global elites. August 18, 2026. No official time frame has been given Trump CBS activation where we will isolate at home for 3 to 6 weeks as global martial law suspended the media, internet, phones and took over TV and radio to present 8-hour documentaries 24/7 about what was going on while the military took down the Illuminati deep state cabal-controlled governments worldwide and made mass arrests of corrupt global elites. August 18, 2026. Global currency reset. On Thursday, August 20, 2026 at exactly 8:14 p.m. Eastern, the old SWIFT Central Clearinghouse experienced a permanent database decoupling. The secondary handshake between the central banks of the G7 nations officially returned a terminal failure message. Thursday 20 August 2026 Bruce, the big call, a higher-up said they were handling bonds in Miami, Geneva, and Reno. A military intel person said that as of 6 p.m. EST on Wednesday 19/20/26 there was a 5-day window where Tier 4B would receive notification to set exchange/redemption appointments and be able to start appointments. That would take it to Monday, August 24, 2026. On Thursday 20th of August, Redemption Center leaders received saying that they should go into work on Friday, August 21, 2026 at 8:45 a.m. Thursday, August 20th, 2026 Paymasters report full release. Direct confirmations have been sent to private transaction platforms in Reno and Zurich confirming that Tier 1 and Tier 2 payouts had been finalized. Tier 3 and Tier 4A, be next. If you're in the private groups, get ready now. Military movements confirmed to secure transition. Sources in Intel report increased security around major financial centers. Private security details have been deployed to Reno, Zurich, and Dubai. Special ops teams were making sure no foreign interference upsets this historic shift in global power. On Monday, August 24, 2026, the ISO 20022 messaging, that defines how banks transmit payment information, completes its transition across all major banking rails. For the first time in history, SWIFT, Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of England, BRICS, IMF and all high-value cross-border payment systems will speak the same transaction language. August 18, 2026. The first week in September 2026, redemption centers will start processing live appointments in accordance with full JESR protocol. The schedule is already being filled with authorized, Tier 4B, participants, according to sources within 2 U.S. agencies. In the context of GCR, Global Currency Reset, JFK Jr. Command Center on Telegram Friday, August 21, 2026, in the realm of the Global Currency Reset. Tier 1 to 5 has an entirely different meaning. It represents a hierarchy of awareness, readiness, and access. Tier 1, central banks, sovereign treasuries, financial elites. Tier 2, private banking institutions, massive trusts, religious financial networks. Tier 3, historical bondholders, private wealth families, whales. Tier 4A, military-connected insiders and operatives. Tier 4B, the awakened digital community, YOU. Tier 5, the general unaware public. 22nd of August, 2026, Friday, August 21, 2026, breaking special report, the Outlaw Ledger, Canada is not a partner. It's an empire. Friday, August 21, 2026, financial collapse warning, Professor Zhang calls the U.S. economy a Ponzi scheme, Scott Bessent fights back as the 50-year petrodollar system begins to crack. Friday, August 21, 2026, bombshell announcement, President Trump doubles down on CBDC ban. I signed a historic executive order banning any attempt to create a central bank digital currency. Friday, August 21, 2026, explosive report, Scott Bessent erupts over tariff refunds. The American people had the money, and we were forced to give IT back. Friday, August 21, 2026, blackout files, Gates, Bezos, and Thiel exposed, funding the world's largest pedophile network, turning schools into grooming labs under a total media blackout. Friday, August 21, 2026, breaking U.S. debt clock detonation, viral coming soon message inspires millions with vision of a new American economic system featuring 0% income tax, 0% property tax and 0% gains tax, May 16, 2026. Friday, August 21, 2026, Edward Snowden sounds the alarm, the digital surveillance machine is already here. They can control your device, your data, your life. Joe Rogan, Friday, August 21, 2026, boom. RFK Jr. exposes the lie, they had to destroy ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, a drug that saved billions. Breaking, the U.S. military has shocked Iran, quietly establishing a shipping lane in and out of the Strait of Hormuz where now millions of barrels of oil are being moved per day, Axios, citing 2 U.S. officials. Some nights have hit 15 to 20 million barrels. This comes as President Trump and Scott Bessent confirmed pipelines are surging construction to bypass the strait. The Hormuz Strait's not going to be quite as important in the past. The covert shipping strategy is beyond simply escorting outbound ships. Axios reports, the military is helping tankers enter the Gulf through the strait, pick up oil and leave fully. No nuke. No strait to hold hostage. J exposed, your birth certificate is a financial bond. and you're the collateral. From the moment you were born, a system of control was placed over you. Your birth certificate is not just a document, it's a financial instrument, a bond worth billions, traded as collateral to fuel a corrupt financial system. You were never free. You were turned into a commodity, a human asset leveraged to sustain national debt. This is the greatest deception ever perpetrated, and they never wanted you to find out. Ever wonder why every government requires a birth certificate? It's not about identity, it's about ownership. Just like a ship arriving at port requires a manifest for its cargo, your birth certificate serves as proof that you were entered into their economic system as property. Your name in all capital letters. That's a corporate entity, your legal fiction. That red serial number. It's a stock exchange number, used to trade your value in global financial markets. You've been turned into a financial instrument, a resource exploited by the elite while you remain unaware. In 1933, the U.S. declared bankruptcy and pledged every citizen as collateral to back its debt. Gold was confiscated. Debt-based money was introduced. And you became an economic asset. Your birth certificate was converted into a bond and sold to international investors. The system calculates your worth, trades it, and profits from you, without you ever seeing a cent. This isn't conspiracy, it's documented financial fraud. Every government-issued certificate represents ownership. A stock certificate means shares in a company. A land certificate signifies property ownership. And a birth certificate, it signifies ownership of you. The elites don't see you as a free individual, they see you as an economic unit, taxed, tracked, and controlled to keep the system alive. The truth is undeniable. The system thrives on your ignorance. It has turned every individual into a financial instrument, ensuring you remain blind to your own enslavement. But now, you know. And knowledge is power. You can either continue living as a commodity, unknowingly feeding their machine, or you can take back control. The choice is yours.
We're still in a slow motion crisis, watching the U.S. head for an inevitable collapse. What I've noticed when I check the news is that the U.S. official deficit has now reached that magic number of $40 trillion. The U.S. is now spending $1.7 trillion on interest payments since October, compared to $800 billion on defense. This is unsustainable, and people in the financial industry who really know what's going on know that the United States is bankrupt. A good example was Japan sold $67 billion worth of U.S. treasuries in May, and now suddenly the U.S. Treasury Department announced they're bailing out Japan. What that really means is that if Japan dumps their U.S. treasuries, there's no one there to buy them. So the Americans basically said, we'll buy them from you. We'll give you these dollars. Please do that. And they also threatened Japan in order to keep things going. But these sort of manipulations don't mask the underlying reality. The International Energy Association has just said that the world, which actually means the United States, has a 1.8 billion barrel per day, maybe a million barrel per day shortage of oil, which means, as we keep saying, we expect some sort of major crisis to come in the autumn. The other thing is the U.S. Treasury 30-year auction, the worst results since 2007, immediately before the Lehman crisis. So, everything is still pointing towards a big black swan event in the autumn, but again, it's not going to happen yet over the summer, but there are many other signs that the Khazarian mafia is, really on the brink. For example, the Yemeni people are increasing their war against Saudi Arabia. They make it very clear that Saudi Arabia started punishing them and attacking them after they attacked Israel for murdering Palestinians in Gaza. So when Saudi Arabia announced that they created this whole new military alliance with Pakistan and Turkey. That's nonsense. There's no way actual Muslims from Turkey or Pakistan are going to fight for the crypto-Jewish Saudi royals working for, the Khazarian mafia, and it's just not going to happen. And the Saudis have lost air power, and now the ground forces are just hired mercenaries who won't fight. So again, that's something I've been watching. I noticed that the House of Saud, the news site, has been shut down. I suspect that was pressure from the CIA because they're telling too much truth. Now, the other thing we're seeing more reports of mutiny in the U.S. Navy, supposedly blockading Iran. But again, this is not a blockade of Iran. It's a blockade of the United States and Israel, and the whole world knows it. Price of oil is cheap. Price of gasoline is cheap everywhere except the United States and Israel. So, the whole thing is going to continue, and there are more and more prominent people calling for war crimes tribunals. So, the U.S. Congress has indicted Anthony Fauci for contempt of Congress. So even though he was supposedly given immunity for no matter what he did since 2014, he still refused to talk about what he did. And so that's what they're getting him with. But, he really should be facing a Nuremberg-type tribunal. And I'm not the only person to say this. I want you to listen to the first 1 minute and 20 seconds of this clip of Rainer Fulmick, the German lawyer who started the, and later you can listen to the whole interview if you have the time. But the point is, this is a very prominent lawyer with an international following. He's now a prisoner of war, but he speaks for many people. So listen to him. What this shows is that a critical mass of aware people in positions of power know that something's going to give, and we just don't know when it's going to give. But another thing that's obviously happening is the United States military is falling apart. They've run out of missiles, and they've lost a lot of airplanes. And this is the thing they're not talking about. They cannot build new ones. They don't have the rare earth metals they need to build them. So they're using up the last of the weapons. They have used them up. And that's why they're saying, well, now we're going to try some sort of financial tricks to take down Iran. But that's just nonsense. I mean, I've been talking to the Iranians. They communicate with me, and they make it clear they're not going to negotiate with Trump or the people behind him. They're going to wait for Israel to collapse and be replaced by the nation-state of Judea. And now the Yemeni troops are also marching. So that's all going to be simmering away over the summer, but I don't expect anything decisive until the autumn, possibly beyond that. But definitely there's going to be a huge push in September to finally do something about these people. And another person who's now come out again is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's talking about all these satellites and this 5G and this attempt to create a digital prison. So he's come out openly now against this giant AI push, which is a form of mind control. And anyway, like I expected, the news cycle is stuck in a kind of a slow motion circling of the drain where we're waiting for the U.S. to inevitably collapse. But while resting here in Canada, I spent some time with two Jewish childhood friends, and it was very interesting because they are fully what I call brainwashed or normies. Their information sources are the New York Times, CNN, the Globe and Mail. In other words, the mainstream propaganda. And talking to them reminded me of this joke. The joke goes like this. There's a man who thinks his wife might be having an affair. So he hires a detective. The detective comes back and reports, I have some bad news for you. I saw your wife meet a man on the street and they went into a hotel together. Yeah, it says, okay, but so they went into a hotel. You don't know what they did there. They're probably just having coffee. He says, no, I followed them into the hotel and I saw them enter a bedroom together. He says, well, did you see them inside the bedroom? I mean, how do you know they weren't just talking? And he says, well, I peeped through the keyhole and I saw them in the bed together. He said, well, were there blankets on top of them? He says, yeah. Well, then you don't know. You can't tell. This is kind of the thought patterns when you confront them with facts about or that Anthony Fauci is really not a nice person or anything else. They have their talking points that they've been given by their propaganda media. But even people like this realize that something is wrong. They sense it. So, for example, whoever is acting the role of Donald Trump right now is actually helping wake up people like that, because they're saying, well, how come the president can just enrich himself at public expense by abusing his office? I mean, that doesn't make sense, and they're slowly, even people like this who they don't follow the news, and they're worried about their own lives, but but even them, they understand that there's something dysfunctional and that the system cannot continue as is. The same thing is going with the stock market, where it's long since ceased to be a kind of a collective decision-making forum for deciding what the best investments are, and instead it's a money laundering machine for a tiny group of people who control the U.S. dollar printing machine. A glaring example, of course, is Elon Musk. Everyone was predicting that once the insiders started selling their shares in SpaceX, that the share price would collapse. But as soon as the first insiders started selling, the share price shot up 22%. And my understanding is that they used their magic dollar printing machine to burn the short sellers and harvest some real money with the fake money by manipulating markets. But such a thing is not sustainable, and it's not going to be allowed to continue. But again, the situation will keep festering away without any major moves, I don't think, until later. However, there was, on August 12th, there was an announcement all over the news that there was going to be a solar eclipse and a Perseid meteor shower, very active, and a new moon, and all these things happening. And I heard from my own sources that they were planning some sort of major event, but it didn't happen. My Iranian sources say there was a plan to use Iranian mobile phones to suddenly emit. And if you don't know about this, look up Dr. Gavreau. He found, well, this is banned by international treaty, but apparently there was some plot to have a major cull of Iranian people using phones that was thwarted. And there was also yet another plan to blow up a U.S. aircraft carrier and try to blame it on Iran. All these things fell apart. So we're lucky that their ability to manipulate us with these events is no longer working. And we can expect change, but again, it's not going to happen yet. We're waiting for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to run out. The U.S. military is already run out of weapons. Now we're waiting for their client states in the Middle East to completely collapse. That's happening in real time with Saudi Arabia. And now we're seeing something similar in Libya. You may recall that Hillary Clinton had Libyan leader Muammar setting up a new African currency and only accepting payment for Libyan oil with gold. And since the Europeans didn't have the gold to pay for their oil, they went in and stole it. Well, now their puppet government there is under incredible strain. Their facilities are being destroyed. The central bank governor has quit. So this is another one of their client states that's falling apart in real time. And I know they also are trying to do all sorts of stuff with Japan, trying to get Japan to incite war with Russia or with China or whatever. We'll deal with that puppet state in Japan later. Again, we're just waiting for the big kahuna, the Soviet Union of the United States, of corporate America, to collapse. And this process is frustrating, and I don't want to give a specific date because dates come and go, but there can be no doubt it's mathematically dysfunctional. They've lost their industry. They have a trade deficit they can't cover. They're running out of oil. Their industry's been hollowed out. They cannot make weapons. And the U.S. military is in revolt because they don't want to fight for Israel, and they don't want to fight for a satanic cult. And we repeat, there is a white hat alliance that's going to offer the United States military a pay raise and the latest weapons and all the industrial facilities they need. All they have to do is liberate the American people from control of this cult. And when that happens, everything else will follow. But even if the U.S. military fails to take action, what is going to happen then is their paychecks are going to bounce, and there's going to be anarchy in the United States. So again, the offers out there for a complete forgiveness of all U.S. debt, and then the United States would be hired to help protect the planet, and they would be the good guys again. And we're waiting for them to answer us. The Dragon family is offering unlimited funding to help rebuild the United States. So again, this is all on the table, but unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have some kind of major systems collapse before the rebuilding of the United States can begin. In the meantime, I recommend anybody and everybody to make sure that whatever is closest to them is working. They have a plan in case the supermarkets run out of food. They have places in the countryside they can go to. They have a certain amount of cash stashed away and non-perishable food stashed away. My own view is that if people have enough dried food in their house, like beans and rice and spaghetti, to last a month, that'll get them through any crisis, because it's not going to last longer than that. But again, in the meantime, summer's going to continue, and I don't expect anything major, so try to relax and charge your batteries, and hopefully, finally, we can finish these bastards off later this year. But if not, we'll keep fighting until they are finished, and there can be no doubt they are losing, and they will lose. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today, and now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. Senator Tom Cotton's FY 2027 Intelligence Authorization Act, Section 622, would significantly expand U.S.-Israel intelligence and security integration. How likely is it to survive the legislative process and pass both chambers? And if it does, would Trump sign it, given the weight of Zionist pressure?
My understanding is that there's a significant portion of the U.S. military and intelligence community who are ignoring everything Congress and the so-called office of President Trump is doing. And when you have, 98% of Congress and Senate accepting bribes from Israel, they do not represent the American people. And I don't think the intelligence community is sharing anything with them, and they're not going to obey their orders to do whatever Israel asks. It's just not going to happen. Not only that, Israeli intelligence is also in revolt against the Satanists who took over Israel. So no, I wouldn't worry about bills passed by whores. Next question.
Hi, Ben. A month ago, you wrote that the dollar has split into two camps, quote, the BRICS dollar held by non-Americans and the, quote, our dollar tied to the Rockefeller Empire. If the USA corporation collapses, what happens to the dollars Americans hold in their pocket, and what happens to the dollars in their bank accounts? How smooth is the transition, and will the two-tier split become obvious to everybody, and have the BRICS dollars actually been what stopped the USA corporation from collapsing already?
I think it's obvious to anybody when you find out the United States cannot buy many things from around the world anymore. And my understanding is that if everything is handled properly, there will be some kind of bank holiday, and the average people will not lose their money, but a lot of these trillionaires are going to have their money confiscated. But whatever happens, it'll be public. It'll be for the good of the average person, and it's not going to be some secret event. But the American people, on average, are not going to lose money, but a lot of trillionaires will, because that's fraudulent money. It's not based in the real world. And as far as the BRICS dollar is concerned, just look at statistics for euro dollars, that's what they sometimes call them, or look at what happened since 2008. Basically, 2008, the Lehman shock was when the split came, and then the only reason the Americans were able to keep the system going after that was they agreed to install a black communist by the name of Barack Obama. In exchange for that, they got $23 trillion, which allowed them to keep going until Trump. They're freaking out, and they're trying to find some way to keep their whole show going. And I keep asking everybody, the Asians and everybody else. But anyway, getting back to it, it'll be some kind of very public thing. It won't be a secret decision, and it's not going to be some kind of reevaluation involving Zimbabwe dollars or stuff like that. It's going to be a public thing that everyone will know about. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Why can't the white hat military simply destroy the fake money printers that keep the Satanists going, and would doing so cause general economic chaos for the majority of Americans? If not, it seems like it should be an easy target.
Well, the problem is that this is something that cannot be decided by the Americans alone. They have to get an agreement with the people who hold all the U.S. debt, and that means mostly China and Japan and some of the Middle Eastern countries. And these countries are saying, we'll write off your debt. All we're asking for you in exchange is to get rid of these Zionist, satanic criminals who hijacked your government. And as soon as that happens, everything will be fine. But unfortunately, the U.S. military cannot act alone. They have to reach a deal with the rest of the world, because it's the rest of the world who owns their debt and pays their salaries at present. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Would you comment on the Q website counting down to October 1st? In the UK, it feels like they are preparing for something, internal war games next year that look like insurrection preparation, and Argentina appears to be moving on the Falklands area again.
I don't give much credence anymore to the Q business, but the fact that they're telegraphing this, it means that they know that something big is coming down in the autumn, and I think they're trying to set up some sort of counteroffensive. So my understanding is they're going to try to impose some sort of martial law in the UK to prevent the removal of the fake King Charles and the removal of the criminal government there. And so there's going to be some kind of an attempt to set up a fascist regime, and it will fail, I guarantee you. But yeah, I expect all sorts of moves and counter moves once things heat up in the autumn. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. How does your White Dragon Society solution provide justice for humanity? If there is forgiveness that could excuse criminals from accountability, Shouldn't all high criminals be held accountable with punishments fitting the crimes they've committed, millions of arrests, and for the unforgivable crimes, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of executions? In your opinion, what does true justice actually look like?
I think there's a consensus growing that we're going to need some kind of Nuremberg 2.0 war crimes tribunals, and that a lot of people will be executed. But again, we have to distinguish between, for example, so that's why we do need public trials, and I expect that there will be a lot of people getting the death penalty. The problem is we're dealing with a cult that people are born into, and they have no choice but to go along and be killed. And now I'm hearing there may be as many as 4 million Satanists around the world, not 1 million as was originally told by Japanese military intelligence. Because they were born into a cult, or do you re-educate them and just deal with the leadership? That's the thing that humanity has to decide. Personally, I think that the important thing is to make sure that it ceases to exist forever, and that's more important than getting revenge. And that means taking their children away, re-educating them, and putting them under complete supervision to make sure such a thing never happens again.